Hey everyone, and welcome to the show. I'm James, that's Katie, and that makes this the first ever episode 25 of Cloud Control. And that means, everyone, today is a very special day. It's an episode we've been waiting for a long time. It is our combined top 25 games of all time list special episode, the third time we've done such an episode on the show. We'll get into what all that means in a second, but we've done this 2 other times, so if you want to see the previous 2 iterations of this lovely activity, you can watch our old episodes. The 25th episode of the Circles and Squares podcast, as well as the 52nd episode, have our first 2 lists. But yeah, this is one of our favorite things to do. So Kate, why don't you let everyone know exactly how this works?
Yeah, so how this works is essentially we have both drafted a top 25 games of all time list individually, and that obviously is up to your interpretation. It's whatever 25 games you think are the best games. You can be as nostalgic as you want. You can be as, I just played this recently and it's awesome. It's just totally up to your interpretation. 25 games for me in order. But the spicy part is that we then have to combine our lists and create a top 25 combined list that we can agree on. And if you haven't watched the other episodes, I can tell you it is not necessarily an easy thing to do.
It's easy at points.
Yes, certain games are like no-brainers, and other games are like, this is number 4 on my list, and you didn't even put it on your list. So right. How it's going to work is the schedule is going to be a breakdown. So we'll do each of our lists individually quickly just to know kind of what games we're working with. Then we're going to create from that 25 games that we can kind of relatively agree on. Step 3 literally just says argue. So we're going to argue and maybe debate is a better word for where we're going to rank these games on the list and which games ultimately do deserve to be there, and create the final list that is objectively our truth for the day. And then the 4th part of the show is going to be the profit part, where the 3rd game is going to be inducted, that's the word, into the Hall of Fame alongside the previous winners. So spoilers, if you haven't watched the first 2
big
iterations
spoilers,
of this.
actually, big spoilers.
We had our first ever in 2021 God of War. Kratos and Atreus made it up there, and then of course the best game ever made was acknowledged in 2022, Bloodborne. So guys, don't you worry, I won't have to argue about Bloodborne at all today. It's amazing.
Yeah, there would be no arguing about Bloodborne anyways, but yeah, as you can see, we have our previous 2 winners up on the screen, and crucially, those 2 games are now excluded from our top 25s going forward because we don't want to talk about the same games over and over again.
I mean, we do, but we think that might be less interesting to listen to, and also it just gives room for more games, which is overall more fun. Exactly.
So with all that being said, this is a long episode, and because of that, I already know it's going to be long. We have so much to say about these games. That means we will not be doing a listener mail question at the end of today's show, but that doesn't mean we don't want them. So please send your emails in to cloudcontrolpod@proton.me, especially if you have a list of your favorite games, 25 games, 10 games, 5, however many games you have. We'd love to see your list of your favorite games. It'd be very fun to read those out on the show for next time, so please send those in. But for now, it's our turn to make our list. And Kate, I invite you, if you'd like to share your top 25 games first.
I absolutely would. And I will say as a disclaimer, while I talk a good game, this list is really subject to change at any time. Like, Tyranny 5 is such an extremely limited number of games.
And to say, like, off the bat, every game we're talking about on the show today is excellent. And we're going to say some good things about them. We're probably going to tear them down a little bit too, but like tearing down within the context that they're all phenomenal.
Yeah, exactly. Every single game, like in some universe, deserves to win that number 1 spot to make it into the Hall of Fame. But unfortunately, we are just blessed with having so many wonderful games in our lives. So I'm going to stop stalling and trying to redo my list because it's so hard to place it. And I will go from 25 up to 1. Number 25, What Became of Edith Finch? And we'll save talking about them, I guess, till after. Number 24, Portal 2. Number 23, Fury. Number 22, Beat Saber. Number 21, Papers, Please. Number 20, Detroit Become Human. Number 19, Unpacking. 18, Hades. 17, Undertale. 16, Death's Door. 15, The Banner Saga. And I put the whole series here cheatingly.
Yeah, here I am with Mass Effect 2 on my list. This asshole comes up with a trilogy.
Okay, Banner Saga 2, but they're all the same. It's like saying part 1 of until dawn,
sure,
and not,
sure.
you know? Okay, moving on. Number 14, God of War Ragnarok. 13, Metal Hellsinger.
Wow, that's high.
Yeah. 12, Divinity Original Sin 2. 11, Inscription. And then the top 10, The Last of Us. Number 9, Persona 5 The Royal. Number 8, unfortunately, we're paying the FromSoft tax now, Demon's Souls. Number 7, Elden Ring. Number 6, Returnal. Number 5.
Damn, that's high.
Wait.
Wow.
Yeah. It was so
my God.
good. You have to play it.
My jaw just hit the floor watching that outrank any FromSoft game.
This is my guess for a future year's tier. Once you play Returnal, it has contention for Hall of Fame. Like,
Okay.
it's that fucking good. Oh god. Okay, so top 5 now. Number 5, Dark Souls 3. Number 4, Hollow Knight. Number 3, Dark Souls. Number 2, Sekiro. And of course, number 1 is Bloodborne.
Very nice list, I gotta say. Number one thing I'm going to say about my list here is, you know how you texted me earlier? You're like, oh, I think I forgot something on my list. You saved my ass because I totally didn't write Hades on my list. I totally forgot.
Would you like a 2-second stall?
No, it's all good. You know what happened is I do my list off of like my games I've beaten, but I haven't technically beaten all the runs of Hades, so it's not on the list, so unless it comes to my mind. Anyway, whatever. There's so many games. Here's my top 25. Starting down from the bottom at number 25. We have Metroid Dread. We have Danganronpa 2 at 24. Of course, that could be the whole trilogy if we're playing Kate's rules. But, but the thing is, that whole trilogy would rank way higher than 24. I just picked one game. Anyway, 23, Rocket League. 22, Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons.
That is a good game.
Number 21, Red Dead Redemption.
Oh, that's a good game too.
Number 20, Fire Emblem on the Game Boy Advance. Fire Emblem 7 for those. Number 19, Spider-Man Miles Morales. 18, Mass Effect 2. Number 17, Fortnite.
Nice.
Number 16, Ghost of Tsushima. 15, Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth. 14, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. 13, Resident Evil 4 Remake. 12, Shovel Knight Treasure Trove. 11, Bloodborne. And the top 10 are as follows. Florence at number 10. Number 9, Paper Mario. Number 8, Cuphead. Number 7, God of War Ragnarok. Followed at number 6 by God of War on the PS4.
Nice.
Number 5, Pokemon Heart Gold, Soul Silver. Number 4, Inscription. Number 3, Telltale's The Walking Dead, Season 1. Number 2, The Last of Us Remastered. Not the remake, I've actually not played it, although I'm sure that would just slot comfortably right in there.
That just is a clear replace.
And number 1, the unequivocally best game of all time, Persona 5 Royal. So there's my list.
Those are good lists. Now, do you have any like honorable mentions? I wrote down a few games at the bottom.
Yeah, we'll toss a few honorable mentions out if you want.
Okay. Well, I put a few honorable mentions. I put Plague Tale Requiem. I really love that series. One of the only video games that ever make me cry, so it feels bad not being on my list. I put Tunic. I love that game. Monster Sanctuary, actually, as a new like Pokemon replacer. A Way Out. Atlas Reactor, rip the game that died.
So much fun.
And then finally, I also just wanted to give a shout out to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, great game, but yeah. And nice. Fortnite, I really have enjoyed as well.
Yeah, well, I got a whole top 50 list actually of my own, so I'll just read a few out here. I got Persona 4 Golden, which is great. I loved Final Fantasy VII Remake a couple of years ago. Let's see, I got Elden Ring on there. Citizen Sleeper is a game I desperately wanted to fit in on the list.
I want to play that so badly.
But I just couldn't fit it. And then, Heavy Rain, SteamWorld Heist, Artful Escape, another game I really would have loved to stick in there. But, there's only so much room on the list. So the next step here is to figure out exactly what games we'll be ranking. So it seems like we have 5 commonalities here, being Persona 5 Royal, The Last of Us, Inscription, Ragnarok, and Hades.
And this is not Hades. And this is not counting games that are not applicable, like original God of War and Bloodborne,
That's
which
So I guess now we're just going to have to fill out the remainder of the 25 games. And we can just take turns, I guess, picking things to add to the list for now, or
I think we should kind of go through, like, I think there's some picks that seem a little bit more like likely, like just bias, we know each other well enough.
Sure. Well, let's just fill some of those out. Like, I mean, we're definitely gonna have, for example, like Elden Ring is gonna be on there. We're both gonna have this high on my list, you know.
It didn't quite make your 25, but it was like 30 or something. So.
Yeah.
I think. What about, you really liked Unpacking as well.
I did like Unpacking, yeah.
Or Edith Finch, I would say, is two of my kind of indie games that I know you also really like.
Well, yeah, I like Unpacking, I think, more. Oh, I don't know. That's a hard one.
How do you rank it? This is the problem we immediately run into every single time.
It is. Yeah. Okay, so we got Elden Ring and Unpacking. We both like those quite a bit. I think, I mean, I would personally think that a game that we both played that could be on here would be Fire Emblem. Yeah. On the GBA.
Fire Emblem's definitely possible. I would say from your list as well, throwing out Ghost of Tsushima is a good one, because I definitely had that one as a consideration. Yeah. But I refrain from putting on because I haven't actually beaten it. And right.
That makes sense.
It felt a little bit.
I think Beat Saber is one that you have that I would be down to put on. I literally have it written on. Like, once I played more, I feel like I can claim it's on there. I just haven't played enough. But like, I love Beat Saber from what I played. I think it's awesome. I also think that Detroit is probably a safe one off of your list for us.
It's a really good game. And I know it's like, that always comes down to put a Detroit / Heavy Rain, and we'll see which of the two ends up coming out on top. Yeah. It's Quantic Dream, right?
Quantic Dream, yeah. I mean, unfortunately. Yeah. I think another safe one too from my list. We've got a couple from yours here. I think Pokemon Heart Gold Soul Silver is pretty safe. Like,
that's pretty safe, but I challenge you. Instead of Pokemon Heart Gold, what about Monster Sanctuary?
That's nowhere near as good.
I don't know. To me, I just think Monster Sanctuary is like the ultimate creature capture game. Or Digimon Cyber Sleuth.
I'll give you Digimon Cyber Sleuth. Okay, let's just put Cyber Sleuth.
For a creature capture game, those two have kind of like... I know. We talked about Pokemon in the last episode so much. And
the thing is, this is about games, though. This is the games. I mean... Let's finish this list before we talk to you in depth. But I think HGSS for Pokemon is much better than Monster Sanctuary, despite having played it recently. Like, just with the variation and the Sanctuary battles just go on forever.
But like all the stuff outside of battle and like...
Well, all the stuff outside of battle is better than Pokemon. They're boring. Come on. They're not that great. No, they're good, but I mean, I don't know. How about Red Dead Redemption? That's on my list. Yeah. You like Red Dead, right?
I do like Red Dead. Have you played Red Dead 2?
No.
Okay, it'll kind of.
I don't think Red Dead 2 really appealed to me, honestly, because it seemed like so slow and realistic. Like, I don't know if it really appealed.
I think it was largely on like how you wanted to play. If you wanted to like go hunting after every single mission and like bring a deer home on your way home, you could. Yeah. And if you just wanted to mainline story stuff, you could also do that. All right, so I love both games.
So right now we have 13 written down on this of games. Like, would you agree that these are all...
I think those all are quite powerful games.
All right, so we got P5 Royal, Last of Us Inscription, God of War Ragnarok, Hades, Elden Ring, Unpacking, Fire Emblem 7, Ghost of Tsushima, Beat Saber, Detroit Become Human, Digimon Cyber Sleuth, and Red Dead Redemption. Is there anything else... I feel like we're approaching the territory now where we may not agree on what's getting added to these.
Yeah, so here's the problem is like there's only so many spots left. I would say if we're gonna have, how do you feel about Metal Hellsinger? Because I know that
it's not even close to my top 25. No, okay. If that soundtrack wasn't that soundtrack, that game wouldn't even be close.
But it is such an integral part of it.
I know, but I would honestly I would rather just listen to the music. I think
that's fair. At the end of the day. I don't know, something about that game.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it was good, but I would put Hi-Fi Rush on top of that. But I don't know. I don't know. It wouldn't be close though. Like put it this way. I know you're going to be arguing for a few more Souls games than I would put on the list. If you want space for those, you ain't getting Hellsinger.
Okay. I just know you played that one. Yeah, so I kind of like to pick up the ones that I know you've played.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, it's a good shout.
What about Papers, Please? Papers, Please did quite well last year.
Papers, Please is a good show.
It made a really good showing for itself.
How do you feel about Cuphead?
I fucking love Cuphead. So yeah,
Would you put
Cuphead's
it on?
great.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think like Cuphead didn't make my list. But I do really enjoy Cuphead.
For the sake of making sure we each get some of our favorites on here, I think we should stop going with the unanimous decisions now.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to. How many slots we have left here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So can we both pick 5? And then see where we're at.
We can always reassess.
Maybe knock a few off and see.
Okay.
All right. So
I'll
for my
FromSoft
all right. So I'm gonna pick Telltale's The Walking Dead.
Yeah. No, that is a game that I'm confident if I had played it, it's like in contention to be on my list, but I just haven't.
Fair enough.
Okay. Here's the thing is I know that Dark Souls is neutral to you, but I know Sekiro you didn't love.
Yeah.
Throw Dark Souls on for now and I'll stress about Sekiro because it's my number 2 game, but I know that I have less sway with it for you.
No, yeah, but also like the fact that it is so high up on your list does hold weight.
That's
for
true.
For sure. But how much weight? Ooh,
that's the thing. Is
everybody.
Like, what if I get Dark Souls pretty high, but I could get Sekiro at like 25?
Yeah.
I don't know. But not having listed Sekiro on it seems like blasphemous. So another good game, by the way, but not on our list.
It's my turn. I'm gonna put Shovel Knight Treasure Trove on here.
This is a game I own.
We're up. That's good.
I played the first level and I thought it was cute, and then I took it on vacation and played it on the plane, and then didn't play it all during my vacation, and came home to the games I was playing at home, and that was
that's how it goes.
Okay, throw Hollow Knight on there. Like, come on, it's Hollow Knight.
Thank God I haven't beaten Ori 2 yet, or that would be enough. This is where it gets tough because I want to pick games that I think can do well, but I also really like.
Right. There's an element of strategy, but also you don't want to sell your soul
that's the
too
thing.
much.
I have to put Florence on this list.
Oh, man. You know what's funny is I thought about playing Florence in prep for this list because how you talk about Florence, like, I want to play this game so badly. But then there was a moment where I was like, but if I play Florence, I might lose a spot on my list. And then I was like, no, that's a stupid reason. Like, it's a great thing to have for the combine. And so I actually intended to play it. And then I just didn't have time to get around to doing it. But like 2 days ago, I was like, okay, Florence evening. And then it didn't happen.
Yeah. Next time.
I am going to have to put Returnal on.
Returnal. Ooh. Okay.
I want to see how it does in this list because I guarantee when you play it,
it's
for skyrocketing.
For sure. I gotta put RE4 Remake. I loved that game.
Another game I really want to play, so it will gain favor for me, I'm sure. And the clips you've sent me are hilarious. So,
are you okay? I'm fine.
I'm fine. Just like killed a bunch of monsters. Oh my god, this is so difficult.
Hard times.
I can't believe Divinity Original Sin 2 is maybe not going to be something I suggest.
Neither can I, because back at the start of it, for anyone that's been listening to our show for a long time,
it was in the top 5, I think, on my first ever list. And now it's 13, which is like, or no, it's 14. It's 12. Sorry, it's 12, which is absolutely nothing wrong with that. But maybe it's just been a while. I don't know. It's such a good game. I want to throw the Banner Saga on here because I think that's a really unique game.
We're talking Banner Saga 1. We're doing the whole trilogy.
The whole trilogy, but 2 if I'm gonna get arrested for not.
Well, you know what? That's fine. We can cheat a little bit because we can put Danganronpa.
Yes.
I'm gonna put Danganronpa 2 because that's my favorite one. But we can use it as a springboard to talk about this series as a whole. 2
is the island, right?
No. 2 is the island.
2 is the island. Yeah.
And then the cool thing happens at the end.
Yeah, I can never choose because I feel like 2 is some of my favorite mysteries.
Let's talk about it when we talk about it.
My last one, put Sekiro. I have to. I can't not do it.
Okay, so now, all right. So how are we feeling about this list? Is there any changes?
I feel good about it, but I will say I think we've really overlooked Death's Door because I know you played that game and I know you liked it and it was really fucking good.
I did, and I feel like Fire Emblem could be removed.
Yeah.
For Death's Door.
I think Fire Emblem is like it's always gonna be a good game, but there's an element of like nostalgia, which like for me isn't as powerful.
Yeah. And also, it's been a long time since I played Fire Emblem 7, you know?
Me too. And
so Death's Door was good recently. Yeah, okay. All right, let's go with that. So I feel like we have our top 25.
Okay.
Would you like to give everyone a recap of what those games are?
Yeah, so we're going to vaguely work with these 25 games, and if something strikes us or we go like, holy shit, we didn't actually put like X on the list, I really care about it, it's actually my favorite game, fuck, what did I do? It's subject to change, but so far we're going to maybe loosely work with these 25, order them, and that would be Persona 5 The Royal, which is going right up to the top 5, obviously. The Last of Us, probably up in that top 5 as well. Inscription, oh my god, we can just say that. Hang on, I can't say that about every game. God of War Ragnarok, Hades, Elden Ring, Unpacking, Death's Door, Ghost of Tsushima, not on Tsushima, as autocorrect might have you believe, Beat Saber, Detroit Become Human, Digimon Cyber Sleuth, Red Dead Redemption, Papers, Please, Cuphead, Telltale's The Walking Dead, Dark Souls, Shovel Knight Treasure Trove, Hollow Knight, those are cute back-to-back, Florence, Returnal, Resident Evil 4 Remake, The Banner Saga, Danganronpa, and Sekiro.
Oh boy, all right.
This is a solid list. These are just 25 good fucking games.
You know what's funny is usually I think the way we do this is we start off and we kind of say like, okay, what could go near the bottom? I actually don't even know what to nominate to go near the bottom with this list.
And like, I don't want to be a jerk and be like, well, I haven't played Telltale's The Walking Dead, so for me, because like with speculation, I think that game probably is really good.
I think what's strong about this, at least for us, is I feel like there's nothing on here that either of us are completely in the dark. Like we know enough to talk.
Yeah, like if one of us hadn't played Inscription and then it was like, I'm going to try to argue for it, but I actively can't tell you anything.
Yeah. I mean, what's sticking out to you? What do you feel?
I would say probably in the bottom 5, like maybe. Oh my god, I was prepared to say something. Maybe like I could see Beat Saber being a little low. It's an awesome game. Like it is so fun and I love the physicality of it. But
little one note, I guess.
It's got less to it than some of these other games, perhaps.
Yeah, and I mean, selfishly too, I've only played it a couple times.
Yeah, well, you haven't illegally downloaded Persona music for it yet, so wait until you do that.
Sadly not. But.
Let me tell you, I'm gonna perfect Rivers in the Desert on Expert one day. It's happening.
All right, well, I'm down for Beat Saber at the end. We got to start somewhere. We can toss at 25. This is all, of course, movable.
It can move.
Of course, I'll make this list visible to anyone watching now. On the screen, you can see how we're ranking these games. So we'll put Beat Saber there at 25. Can I make a controversial suggestion for what else could be potentially in this bottom 5?
Already gonna throw Sekiro
we all
in
know
the
Sekiro
garbage.
goes in the bottom 25. I propose Detroit Become Human goes in the bottom here. I just think for as good as that game is, and we both love that game. We've talked about it on the show quite a bit. We love the relationships and the map and everything, but a lot of what makes that game special is done in other games that are of a similar style, like, with the choices and the branching paths. Like we just had that same experience with the game we played on our phone. What was that game? The cool animation one that we did.
Yeah, it was very As Dusk Falls.
As Dusk Falls. Yeah. And like I think obviously Detroit is a very strong game.
Yeah.
In that genre, but at the same time, like it does have some weird story things that aren't always lined up with
That's true. I guess what Detroit does for me is I just love the story and the world so much. Like it's just that question of like what is human, like questioning what humanity is, like those characters finding their autonomy and like this world that's like so similar but also like so futuristic. Like it was very well designed in that way. So that's kind of what I look to more with Detroit, like the story versus like the mechanics, which also were pretty neat, but.
Yeah.
I mean, looking at the rest of this list, though, I guess maybe like higher up in the
bottom like
quadrant.
I'm just tossing it out. Like it goes in here somewhere maybe.
I would also say maybe Red Dead Redemption goes in this lower as well, because I don't think it was super high. It was 21 on your list to begin with and not on my list.
Yeah.
So.
That's more of a we just like Red Dead as a collective, but I'm fine with Red Dead at 24, I think.
That's another really good story though. I love John Marston. Yeah, it's a great game, and like that open world is one of the few that
I think both of us really enjoyed being in, and that says something whenever that happens. Like Tsushima and that are both on this list despite being open world games.
I think the fact that Tsushima was like an open world, and I kind of just got a little like not like tired of it, but I just sort of like needed to take a break and play something else was for that reason. But I still like absolutely adore the game.
So if Red Dead goes there, okay. So is there any of my games that you would really like to put down low? Or like, because I would rank Sekiro pretty low. I'm not saying it has to be in the bottom 25, but like, is there any of my games that I put that you have a similar sort of opinion? Like, James, why is this even on the list?
No, because I'm a kind, benevolent person that can see the good in things, even if it's not for me. No, it's hard because I've either just not played them, but want to, or I guess maybe like Digimon Cyber Sleuth is maybe a little bit lower for me just because like I do quite like that game. But it's not a top 25 for me. Whereas the other ones are games that are yet to be fully judged, but I have a high opinion going in. So maybe they have potential to be in the 25. So
I actually feel like Digimon would actually slot nicely down here.
Yeah,
my love of that game is nothing to do with it actually legit being like a top tier game.
Yeah.
For something from that game is just smooth as butter to me. Like the way you move around. I've never played another game to do with like creature catching, like we're saying, where like managing your party and constantly changing it and evolving it, and it all just is so seamless. You're constantly shifting out what creatures you're using. Yeah. Your team is never the same. It's never static. It's just a blast to like constantly be switching them out. Like that.
It is, and you're constantly evolving and being like, oh, what is this going to turn into? Because it doesn't just have one path. It does the Digimon thing of like choose between these 5 things, and you're like filling out the decks.
Yeah, which you don't get a trophy for completing, by the way. Wow. Unfortunately,
that's rough. But yeah, I think like it is just such a dopamine hit all the time of like evolving and digivolving and like.
You know what it is? It's like in mobile games when they try and gamify it and like the bars are constantly filling up and you're getting that dopamine hit of like, oh, I got another thing. Yeah. Like that's the same way this game makes you feel, but in a console Digimon game, which is.
And
awesome.
I think Monster Sanctuary is my favorite creature capture game that I've played, but Digimon Cyber Sleuth has the best like progression for your characters. Like the fact that you get to use everyone because they're even leveling in your box and you're constantly digivolving and like your team just feels like all of them, which is normally like my problem with those games, because like objectively that's why you play creature capture games, right? But Pokemon's like pick 6, like excuse me, you have 1,000.
What do you mean pick 6?
What do you mean 6? And so Digimon is like no, please enjoy everyone. Some of them unfortunately are different colors of poop monsters, but some of them are very cool, so the angels will make up for it. Like little what's the one with the hamster? He's got wings on his head. I love that guy. Patamon. See, Patamon balances out the weird poop guy, and so the creatures are great.
You're talking about Numamon.
Numamon, that's right. I hate that guy. And the Elvis monkey with the glasses. I hate that guy too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he sucks.
You remember Nanomon? He was just like a head and he had arms and like a mustache and some sunglasses.
Yeah, we had him as a figurine.
Very strange.
Digimon's great. I fucking love Digimon. That's my nostalgia pick for this.
Okay, so if we go with these are the bottom 3, Beat Saber, Red Dead Redemption, and Cyber Sleuth.
Yeah. I would say, now can I do a weird thing and say, can Beat Saber be 24 and Red Dead be 25?
I'm down for that. Yeah, I'm down for that. Yeah. We can swap it.
Beat Saber's so cool.
What about to fill out the last 2 in this bottom section here? I'm down to put, now I put my Digimon, right?
Didn't we say something else was going on?
Yeah, it was going to be Detroit.
But
I just want to say I put my Digimon.
Oh God, here
Red Dead was on my list. All I'm proposing, I just want to throw something out there. I just want to float an idea, okay? I want to float an idea out there. Okay. There's 2 games that are kind of cheating the rules on our list. Okay. It's Inscription, or not Inscription, sorry. It's, I will never say anything bad about Inscription. The 2 that are cheating is Danganronpa and the Banner Saga. Right. Because those are both on there. We're kind of using it to represent a trilogy. Yeah. But they're not. Right. We're picking a specific game, which is part of a trilogy and still great, but you know. Now, we both love Danganronpa.
We both love Danganronpa.
Best visual novel series in existence, in my opinion. So
I'll think on that.
Okay, well, it's one of the best. It's one of the best.
Absolutely.
I propose that the fifth game is the Banner Saga that goes down here, simply because it's only one of them. I like that game. It's good, but I wouldn't say I have a vehement love for it like you.
Yeah.
I think it could slot nicely as 21 or 22.
Okay.
What do you say?
I can accept that. Banner Saga is 15 on my list, so I guess making it to the combined in like the higher 20s is, or the lower 20s is.
I mean, if you want to make a different argument for a different game, that's fine.
I think that seems reasonable. I just want to say for the Banner Saga, it's a fucking good game. Like, this is the game for me that made me stop worrying and like wanting to save scum if I made a decision that wasn't good for me, and like stressing about it, because the story that it ended up unfolding based on like the things that went wrong as well were like was more interesting, and like, you know, like the characters going through struggles. Like one of the characters like loses a loved one very early on, and like the way they kind of fall apart after that. Like it's just a very, very well told story, and I think like the parts that you decide are not too much that it like makes the characters not feel genuine, but it's not too little that you don't feel like you actually have a lot of agency. And like the art is fucking beautiful, and the tie-in novel is actually very good. So all good reasons to play Banner Saga.
It's a really cool game, and there's not many games I think that do like the choose your own adventure thing, but then they have like an RTS, like a strategy combat system. Like it's pretty cool the way it does it,
and it's like pretty well fleshed out. Like I think the game, like the combat is actually just fun in its own right. It isn't just like we need gameplay tacked on. Like
100%. I think the only thing that holds it back from a list like this is the fact that it's so strong as a trilogy, because your choices carry over and your characters like change and go forward. And for a list such as this, it makes it difficult to do one game. In a similar way, that's why I would suggest in this next 5, Danganronpa goes in the next 5 somewhere.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I love Danganronpa, but it is not without its faults. And
it's got a lot of faults. That's for sure.
I think Danganronpa is one of the best, like, play with a friend and, like, just crazy shit happens and, like, you know, decide who you think the murderer, or like guess who you think the murderer is, and then you're like hardly ever correct, but then by the end of the case, like it actually makes sense. And I think that's one of the things I love most about it, is I find a lot of those kind of games, like you either know who it is from the beginning, and then it's like
in Phoenix Wright Off, and that's the problem with Phoenix Wright.
It's so obvious, and then it's more about like how do you prove it instead of like how do you figure it out. Whereas in Danganronpa, like you don't know who did it until like your character does, basically, and like you keep getting led down these paths that like seem like maybe they're going somewhere, like no, it's way too obvious, and then it, like you know,
it does such a good job of circumventing like what you expect to happen. But then the other thing that I really like about it is that the explanations of how things actually did happen sometimes is pretty zany. Like it does work within the world that they've set up, and that you never feel like, oh, that was cheap, like that would never have been able to happen. They kind of justify it, but it's always in a way that you just would never have been able to predict.
They justify it, and I think it works well, like you said, within the confines of Danganronpa, but you have to be willing to accept that this is going to be like really like over the top and extreme, and like you have to think of the characters as who they are in the game and not like what any reasonable person would ever do.
But that's kind of the fun part, is like getting to know the characters, and they're also quirky. Some of them are very like sexist and awful, obviously.
But I think there's more good characters.
There's way more
than
good characters than bad.
Characters.
And there's a lot of, like, it's just such a cool franchise. I can't wait till they hopefully do.
And it's so unique too, is the thing, right? Like a lot of games like we play and they're like, they're fantastic. But like Danganronpa is one of those games that truly does, there's nothing else that feels like it to go through the series. So I think even that kind of like elevates it a little bit for me personally. Yeah. Great game. How do we feel in this juncture about Death's Door? Because we just slid it on there at the end. How high is it really going to make it up the list? Death's Door is amazing.
It is. I mean, it's 19, you know? Unless, I mean, like, I would prefer
Death's Door over Ghost of Tsushima?
No. Ghost of Tsushima was on my list.
I'm the opposite. Death's Door is on my list.
I like both.
Yeah.
I think Tsushima would be a good shout for like this area as well.
Yeah. I think this area is kind of where a lot of games that like live on one of our lists, but not the other, but isn't in our top 5, maybe where they end up. So like Ghost of Tsushima, Death's Door, like.
All right, let's do that with this. Let's put some of our combined loves in this 16 to 19, 20 range.
But not our like most.
But not like just some of those ones we both can lay down a little bit on, maybe, you know, like Death's Door. Could Unpacking go here? I love Unpacking. Yeah. I love the emotion behind it and the way that it tells a story in a way that, you know, only a game, like we say that a lot, it's kind of cliche, but it's true. Like no other medium can you unpack and like get that emotional feeling of like going through. It tells you the very, very extremely relatable story of a woman's life through nothing, like no speaking, no music, no text, no nothing. It is just unpacking her belongings and seeing how her life changes in the different phases she's gone through, right? Like living at home, moving out for the first time, moving in with a partner, experiencing a breakup, like all the different stages that are so incredibly relatable to a person. And you learn so much about her as a person in her life just based on the things that you unpack, like the art she decides to hang on the wall and like the kind of music she listens to and like, what things from her childhood she decides are important keepsakes and which other ones are gone. Like
like a picture to hang on the fridge of like, you know, like a vacation or something. Like you really feel like you intimately kind of know this person. And
like, we've
we
both moved like pretty recently, you know, within the last couple of years. So it's like, it really hits home when you've had that experience too.
Yeah, especially if you kind of like the main character have moved with different various situations, right? If you live with a partner, if you live with roommates, if you live with family, if you lived on your own, like, and different like iterations of those things. So, I mean, I've just talked Unpacking up to top 5.
I know, it's so hard. I think we could put Ghost of Tsushima at 19. Ghost of
Tsushima. I can say that if we also put Shovel Knight here, that I think also Death's Door can go in this area as well.
You're just gonna volunteer?
Okay, Sekiro. I'll also nominate Sekiro.
You're gonna put Sekiro down here? I was prepared to let you have it in the top 15.
Never mind.
Because of how much I know you like it.
Never mind. I said nothing. Nobody heard that.
I mean, 15 Sekiro sounds pretty good to me.
Oh, 15 Sekiro. Yep. That's
all right. Well, you know what? Let's put it in then. That's fine. Okay, we can toss it right there.
I love it.
I hate that game, but I mean,
one day I'm gonna get you to your
you know
words.
What? I have so much respect for Sekiro. Just talk about it right now. It's an awesome game. It is mechanically so tight. And I think my only argument against it would be that tight mechanics does not mean a game is good. And for me, that's just not what I'm looking for. I wish I could have explored this world more because I was so hype on the day one. I love the lore and the world, like the way the world is designed and the story and the mechanic arm and like the sword and the shinobi arts or the tools, like that shit is so much more interesting to me than anything in any of the like traditional Souls games, like Dark Souls, not Bloodborne. Bloodborne's a goat, but I just, the combination of parts just should have come together better for me. And then I could do it, but I just play too many things and I don't want to sit there and practice my parries. Like, it's just not what I like.
That's fair.
In a lot of games that have a parry, I prefer to dodge because I like the idea of getting my character and positioning, and I'm all about movement and like, how can I move my character? I don't find myself often using a parry even if it is an option. So the fact that it's so necessary in this game, it's just not a mechanic that I love. And I think that's what the barrier is for me for a game like this.
Yeah, and I know, like, I think the thing about Sekiro is that it is so tightly focused on what it wants to do that you either like that or you don't. There's no way to change Sekiro to being something that's more your taste if it's not your taste. Like, even in the FromSoft games, like, I would say those are just niche games in general, but you can build a character a certain way.
You can kind of level up a little bit.
You can level up. Like, there are a lot of options. There is some flexibility. With Sekiro, it is no. There's no, like, way to get stronger unless you're progressing through the game. There's no other ways to play other than this is the deflection system you have to do. And I will say, for as much as I like tout as being like the FromSoft person of legend, like, I beat my first ever FromSoft boss on my first try, and then the second one on my first try, and then the third one on my first try, and I like it was so good, and I just clicked with these games. Sekiro, I ran it back time and time. I fucking sucked at this game when I first started. And I had moments where I was like, I'm going to give up. I'm never going to be able to play this game. It's so fucking hard. I don't get it. And then I had a moment where it clicked, and it was like from 0 to 100. There was no in-between time where I felt like I'm kind of getting it. It was just all of a sudden I had like unlocked the ability to play it. And I understand that that's maybe not fun. Like, I talk shit on fighting games. Like, I don't want to sit in training mode. Like, that's boring.
That's the sentiment I have about this as like a relatable concept.
And I totally understand that. But when you have that transcendent moment in Sekiro, there is no other game that feels like it. And because of how hard it was for me at first, even though I'd say I'm normally good at like difficult games, because of the trouble I had, I know that other people can get there. It's just wanting to get there that's the barrier. But like,
and that's the thing is like, you can't project your want onto someone else who doesn't want it. It's actively like discouraging,
exactly.
right? Yeah.
It turns them away. So I understand, but I just want everyone to experience what I experienced with that game. And like, it's like what we said about Danganronpa, but there's nothing else like it. Like, it's such a unique combat system once you have the feel for it. But unfortunately, the only way to get the feel for it is to just ram your head against Lady Butterfly 45 times, if not more. Like, I probably fought Lady Butterfly for like 5 days straight before I finally knew how to play
That's what
Sekiro.
I did too, and then I was like, I don't know if I'm going to play this anymore.
Anyways, we did it. Sekiro.
We did it, everybody. You know, like, it would be. I play a bit of a character up, you know, trash talking these games, but you know, honestly, like, I know you love it just so much. I don't have a heart to be like, no, fuck you. Like, it's lower. But 15's pretty good.
15, I'm in trouble for what I'm going to have to pay for this.
All right, we've done Sekiro here. Let's finish off these last 3. We already said one other one for here, right? Unpacking was going to go here. After that huge rant about unpacking, I think we should maybe hold off on that.
I think we should. We both clearly feel very passionate about unpacking.
So we got to make some tough calls. I think Death's Door has to be down here, just because of how late we put it on. I mean, does it?
Because I forgot about it.
Okay,
You didn't have Hades on your list at all.
Well, does Hades go down here then? Does Elden Ring go down here?
How do you feel about it? Okay, this is maybe a better question, because Elden Ring is obviously...
Yeah, no, I preferred Elden Ring a lot to Sekiro, if we're talking like Souls context. But like, I mean, it wasn't even in my top 25 though, really. Like, it was my 30th game, so...
True.
I really like Elden Ring. But I don't think there's too many more...
Here's a question that's interesting then. Do you prefer Elden Ring or Death's Door?
Death's Door.
So maybe it makes more sense for Elden Ring to be here and Death's Door to be higher.
Yeah.
Because I really like Death's Door.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I was just picking Death's Door because it seemed like some of these are untouchable. We're not going to be talking about some of these until like way later.
I think the problem for me is Death's Door like Elden Ring has some of the highest highs I've ever played in a video game, but also it's got some low lows, and like it's like my one FromSoft game where I have like complaints about it. And so like some of the best moments in FromSoft ever, like Nokron, like when you get to like Lindell, like the capital, like oh my god, Margit, and
that was such a cool
Stormville
fight.
Castle. Oh my god, Phase 2, and like what's his name? That's another M name at the end, but he like Phase 2 gets his dragon arm out. Like
Phase 2, she's lost us all, everybody. Now we don't know what this means.
Foul tarnished.
Yeah, Elden Ring is a badass game, you know, and something about when you realize like the size of the world for the first time, like it really reminded me of the feeling when I played God of War 2018, when the map opens up after that first initial bit and you're like, holy fuck, it's so big. Except Elden Ring, I had that moment when you go down the elevator for the first time and you're like, holy fuck, there's another full-size map down here.
And then you have that like 4 more times, you're like, okay, I think I know how big the game is now. And you're like, oh my god, this was half of it. Okay, let's go again.
You know what I like the most, like just to talk about Elden Ring for a little bit, because we're talking about these games, is like, for me...
This is part of the fun.
For me, I like that game so much because of the way that it lets you have... It's the antithesis of Sekiro as a Souls game, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I like so much about it, because it's not really my wheelhouse. Like, I'm not terrible, but if I got stuck somewhere, I could just go and do something else. And there's, you know, I played 45 hours, I think, of this game, which is more than I've played probably half the games on these lists. I didn't come close to beating it. But throughout 45 hours, like for what I was looking for, I got a lot out of it. And, you know, fought some cool bosses.
Yeah.
I think like for my experience, the biggest criticism I would have of Elden Ring is just there's the repetition in some of those mini bosses, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
Like I fought that skeleton ghost boat.
Mariner?
The Mariner. I fought him so many times, and it's
Yeah.
like, if this game is that big with that much to do, why am I fighting him twice? Like, aren't we supposed to have cool boss fights in this game?
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's known for this, and you're recycling content. Other games would be ragged over the coals for doing that.
The thing is like, it's such a funny problem with Elden Ring, because Elden Ring has like by far, like for what it is, like so many unique bosses. Like it has enough unique bosses to justify it like 100 hours of content. But then they're like, what if it was 150 hours of content and then we also had recycled stuff?
Yeah.
And like some of the bosses later too, like that Mariner guy, like okay, whatever.
He's cool.
He's like in the world and like okay, it kind of makes sense there'd be some like multiple.
But there's other
things.
guys in like the caves sometimes.
There are some bosses that have like the unique remembrances that you get for beating those like special bosses. Like the item you get, like normally when you beat a boss, like a mini boss, you maybe get like a sword or maybe you get a talisman. But the remembrances are like for the special big bosses. There's like 8 of them or something. Or like maybe not 8, but there's a low amount. And then you get to a point where like, that's a remembrance boss. And he's just like in a cave now. And it's like, what the fuck? So
it's weird.
I don't know, man. Elden Ring, the first like 40 hours of Elden Ring is maybe the best. Aside from Bloodborne, maybe the best. And sorry, aside from Bloodborne and Sekiro, maybe the best game I've ever played. And then it's too big.
Yeah, it's too big. It's too big. And especially because I know you like to go through and read all the lore and find everything. For someone that plays them like you, it's too much. Like, yeah.
And I think like you can't maintain the perfect level of quality for that size is the problem. And so like it has the highest highs, but it also has the lowest lows for me. And so it makes it hard to rank over other games that I feel like are more consistently like perfect as a package.
Yeah.
So
18 it is, and we have 2 more to go.
I love you, Elden Ring.
I mean,
I love you so much.
How do we feel here about Papers, Please?
Papers.
I love Papers, Please.
Okay, I'm gonna make you a
okay. I like these deals. Ooh,
deal.
What's it gonna be?
I think we can put Papers, Please here, but we also have to put Shovel Knight.
I can agree with that. I think Shovel Knight's done good to make it to 16.
Or 17. Put the game you love beside the game I love.
Okay, fine.
And Papers, Please, the game we both
That's true. Shovel Knight Treasure Trove. I mean, I guess it's kind of cheating as well. It is a collection, but it's one game. It's not like you buy the trilogy. It's one disc, so that's why I put it on there. But man, Shovel Knight Treasure Trove, you want to talk about games that have good value. We have those on this list too. We're going to talk about Hollow Knight later. Great value. Yeah. You want to talk about some good value? Shovel Knight's like $25. You get 4 full campaigns. You get the combat mode. You get the other little mini game mode that comes with it. There's so much content, and it's all like, it's not just the same levels playing as different characters. Like they redesign the levels based on each character's mechanics. There's like different ways to complete the same areas, but this time you're like grappling through because you're playing as Spectre Knight. It's just amazing. And then the soundtrack is just so charming. I was saying this last time on the show about Pocket Dungeon, of just like Shovel Knight has such an identifiable soundtrack and look to it. It just has its own like universe that's been created over the time it's been around now for nearly a decade at this point, which is crazy to think about. But I just love the Shovel Knight universe, and like he's been in so many different, it's nothing to do with this game.
Yeah,
but
Shovel Knight is a game I definitely want to like return to and play more of. I think Shovel Knight is one of the games I respect the hell out of, but for me personally, that type of 2D platformer is just not my favorite kind of game. Like, I think Shovel Knight like is one of the best ones, but in a platformer, I typically prefer like either something that's got like a bit more like of a combat system, or I prefer maybe more like a 3D platformer, like a Mario Odyssey style game. And so like maybe like a different character would get me. Like the characters play very differently.
They play very differently.
Like I think like the Plague Knight guy looks really cool. So
yeah, it's that's one of the best things about it. I think is just playing the different characters, right? Like I love it. But Shovel Knight is just so fun with the pogo stick. Like you got his shovel and you're jumping on guys and you're using it to like dig through things.
I do love the shovel.
It's an ingenious character.
I think that's his design is phenomenal.
Yeah. Great game. Everyone should play Shovel Knight for sure. And Papers, Please. I mean, just a classic toll booth operator game. You're like going through like this guy's passport's not right. He's got a gun on his leg. Like we can't let him through. But he's trying to bribe me, and my wife is starving at home, and our child just is also starving. So maybe I should take the bribe. Like
and then like okay, the next person doesn't actually have the right paperwork, but actually turns out her husband lives here, and she's trying to like be able to come be with him.
Or does her husband live there and she's just trying to sneak across the border? Like, you don't know. But that's the fun of Papers, Please, isn't it?
That's the bleak, horrible fun of letting people through your like...
You know what's funny about Papers, Please? Papers, Please is like the closest I've ever felt like I was going to work to play a game. Like it's fun, but you do feel like you're going to work. You like set up your station. You're like, okay, people are going to start coming in a second. Like, okay, I'm going to pull down this guide. I'm going to like open this thing because I'm going to have people coming through from this country.
Yeah, and like before it starts, like, okay, I'm going to read just to see if there's anything changed. Like, we're not accepting passports from Arstotzka right now.
Yeah,
like,
it's literally like a job.
Or I guess Arstotzka is the place you're from, but like whatever the other ones are. But,
close enough.
Okay, and just one last thing. When you like get it wrong in Papers, Please, oh my god, do you feel immediately awful? Like if you let someone through you shouldn't have because their papers are wrong, or like you deny someone who was supposed to go in, like you have like the fear in you, like, oh my god, I'm gonna get written up, my family's gonna die, I maybe just sentenced that person to death. Like
well, there is a firing squad at one point. You gotta call that in.
Yeah, there is. Oh man, it's such a good game. It's so unique.
I gotta do a run of that soon, I think. It's so short. You can play it in like
I did one relatively recently. It took me like an hour and a half, and like
your family can starve a lot quicker than that too if you're bad.
I think Grandma didn't make it. I'll be honest. I think she got sick, and that was the end of that. We couldn't afford the medicine.
They either get sick or they get cold, and you can't fix both those problems.
Nope.
But all right, so we got 14 games left to go, and it's really getting down to it.
Should we read the list of the games that we still have remaining?
Yeah, let's give everyone a quick recap. That's a good idea.
Okay, so left over still, we've got, in no particular order, Resident Evil 4 Remake, Returnal, Florence, Hollow Knight, Dark Souls, Telltale's The Walking Dead, Cuphead, Death's Door, Unpacking, Hades, God of War Ragnarok, Inscription, The Last of Us, and Persona 5 The Royal.
That's right. That's kind of the top half of our list. And maybe this is a good point for like a little musical intermission. And we'll just recap this list quickly and then give everyone a pause to reset. So right now, as our list stands, we have from 25 up to 15, we have 25 Red Dead Redemption, 24 Beat Saber, 23 Digimon Cyber Sleuth, 22 Detroit Become Human, 21 The Banner Saga, 20 Danganronpa 2, 19 Ghost of Tsushima, 18 Elden Ring, 17 Shovel Knight, Treasure Trove, 16 Papers, Please, and 15 Sekiro. So listen to this music from one of these games we like, and we'll be right back. Okay.
Okay, we're back.
Kate's trying to make deals off the show, so I don't know why this is happening.
Look, nothing bad happened. There was nothing illegal going on here.
Okay, so, I mean, now we're going to have to make some hard calls, I feel. There's nothing really easy left.
Yeah.
If you had to pick, regardless of me, which of these games would you put from our list currently?
See, this is where I would put,
Like, you'd probably put games you haven't played,
Resident Evil and Florence, because I haven't played them. And also, like, Florence is in your top 10. Resident Evil is not. Yeah. So I feel like maybe that's, like, a fair thing to say.
I'm down to put Resident Evil down here, if only because I played it so recently that I still feel like it's a bit recent for me. Like, I loved it and I know it's in my list, but I'm kind of hesitant to rank it so high yet.
Because you might be a little bit biased with the recency.
Yeah. Although I will say, once you play this game, I think it has Hall of Fame potential.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. We'll see. I do think it's going to be good. I
good.
guess based on the Resident Evil games I've played, and neither of them have made it on my list, that makes me skeptical, but I understand that this is like a very different game from those. So.
It's quite different, and like it's the first Resident Evil I've beaten, but I just loved it so much. It was hilarious. Like I couldn't put it down. I honestly don't think I've been, I don't know, I don't want to say addicted, but I haven't been like so massively into like just wanting to spend all my free time just to get through a game. I think I actually pushed through it faster than I did God of War Ragnarok. And I think part of it's to do with like Ragnarok was way longer, but Resident Evil is just so compelling, and the way you get to the shop and you can change all your loadouts, and then you're dealing with Ashley and making sure she's safe, but then it's constantly just switching the scenario you're in, and the combat's just so meaningful. Like every bullet counts. You got to get the headshot. You can't mess up. You got to make sure you got your healing. You're organizing your inventory. It's just a dream. It's so slick. And it's the perfect length, like there's kind of 3 major sections of the game. You're in there for a perfect length of time, or I felt, was just enough.
Right. It sounds like the game has like phenomenal pacing.
Oh, it's paced the best of, like, I don't know if there's another game that's paced as well as this. And it's like the length of the game in general, but it's also paced within each section too. Like you're running through a hallway, you're, oh my God, I would do anything to find a safe spot. And then like, you go through one more room and then, there's the safe spot just as you needed it. Like just in time,
Right, but never too soon.
Never too soon. Yeah. Like I don't know how they do it. I really couldn't tell you. It just must be play tested to hell. And like obviously it's made on the bones of what is already an outstanding game. I feel
like, and I don't know if this is true of this game, but I know some of the games in the genre have like secret behind the scenes tricks where they're like, they'll give you a little more ammo when you're low and then give you a little bit less ammo drops when you're higher up to like maintain that balance. But I mean, like, that works for some mechanics. That doesn't work for like, I really want a save room and then the save room's there. Like that is obviously just like how the map is designed. So like, that's definitely like a lot of them just designing a good game, but then maybe like enhancing it with a few little like.
Well, totally. And I mean, I think that's a good thing, really. Like games should be doing that, in my opinion. You want the tension to be there.
Trick is the wrong word because like, it is a good thing. That's part of good game design. I guess I just mean in the way like it's not.
Yeah, the tension is somewhat manufactured. It's not like there won't always be 5 bullets in that drawer, maybe, but
exactly. But then again, like
would you want there to always be 5?
Yeah, that makes for a better experience, so that's a good thing. So
and there were a few fights where I was out of ammo. I don't know how. Like there's a couple times when I was just thinking, I don't know how I'm gonna make it through this. You just gotta kind of strafe around, hopefully find a few things. You can get the enemies to hit each other sometimes. Like you gotta be resourceful. I'll say that. Great game. You got to play it.
It's high on my list. I think it will definitely be in my sometime this year would be my guess.
Hope so.
Maybe a little in October, a little spooky Halloween game.
Yeah. So the question I just asked you, which is what game would you put here?
Okay.
My answer to that would be, I think Death's Door or Unpacking for me could go.
Okay. I
think there's a conversation to be had around Returnal around here just because I haven't played it and we're getting close to the top 10. I would have a conversation around Hollow Knight and be willing to trade you something of mine. How you? I don't know, any of those doing it for you?
Oh, this is so stressful.
I could be somewhat convinced that Hades could go in this range.
Okay, I don't hate that because Hades was kind of like maybe even a little bit lower than this range on my list. I love Hades. Like it is.
I cannot wait for Hades 2.
I am so excited for Hades 2. I really didn't think we'd get it because I thought they'd do the Supergiant thing of like we're making a totally new type of game again. But knowing that we're getting Hades 2 is like incredibly exciting. I just love the world, everything about it. It goes so much like above and beyond your expectations. Like if it was just an action roguelike, it would be a fantastic game. But they're like, here's actually some really compelling characters, and here's like insane amounts of dialogue and story for all of them. And here's actually the pack of heat that you unlock as you go that lets you like modify the difficulty of like such specific aspects of the run is so amazing for replayability. Like this is one of the only roguelike games where I didn't either kind of like fall off because they get a bit repetitive over time, right? So either you fall off or you're like, I've kind of done everything I need to do in this game. I don't really have a motivation to keep playing. But in Hades, like, no. Here's like just the game is actually like there's so much in it, and also modify it so that it continues to feel fresh and different. So.
Yeah, and not only that too, but I think Hades was one of the first games, like, I think it was getting praised at the time it came out for being the first kind of roguelike that actually had story justifications as to why your character was doing multiple runs of the same challenge. Like, it's justified in the story, you know, he's conscious that he's going through these runs, and there's like, people say things to you after you complete a certain amount, and the story changes. A lot of those other games are just kind of like, you do your run, you go back and unlock, but there's not like an ongoing context.
Yeah, there might be like a reason, but it's usually like kind of like a vague, just justified reason. And then
like Hades, the story wouldn't work without the roguelike elements.
Exactly. And then like once you hit that like 10 runs and you get kind of like what that ending gives you, and then it turns out that's not actually, like, there's still so much more to do, like, and like it's so fucking cool. It's the art, the music, like this game, and the
combinations you can make, all the powers, all the boons from the different gods, like the way they can fuse and mix together, and you can have, like, there's almost infinite replayability in that in certain ways.
Yeah, and combined with all the different weapons that you get, and then you unlock the aspects within, change how the weapons work. Like,
it's just so it's so dense.
Oh, it's so dense. It's so crunchy. It's so, like, the soundtrack's fucking awesome. Shout out to Periphery, the band that wrote the song Zagreus, that has like the death sound of Hades in it.
It's awesome.
Oh my god.
That should be in Metal Hellsinger.
That should be in Metal Hellsinger. Maybe some copyright on there, but yeah.
So Hades at 13?
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Okay, fine. And then I think we should throw in
Why don't we do this way?
Okay.
Why don't we decide now? We got 12 games left.
Yeah.
Maybe the easiest way to do it is just decide what's the top 10, and it will tell us what 2 games are missing.
Okay. So I think Persona 5 Royal and The Last of Us and Inscription and Ragnarok are all shoo-ins for top 10.
Yeah. And we both had all of those on our list. So those are mutual. Yeah.
And not only did we both have all those on our list, we both had those on our list very, like, rather high up.
Those are locked for sure.
Those are locked.
Now for me, I would also put Cuphead and Telltale's Walking Dead as very highly ranked for me.
Right. So then if you get those, I should
That's
have
4, 5, 6.
Hollow Knight and Dark Souls.
Yeah. And then combined, I mean, I would love to squeak Florence into the top 10.
Then I can squeak Returnal? And we handshake on that?
Yeah, because we both want to play those mutually. Yeah. Which means Unpacking and Death's Door are the 2 that go here, 11 and 12. Okay. How do we feel about that?
I think that's fair. Can I have... Oh, I don't even know what order I want. Which order do you want? Just take it away from me.
You know, this is...
Actually,
if we say these can change, this is like flavor.
Can I have Death's Door at 11?
Sure. Death's Door at 11. I was going to pick Unpacking at 11, but that's fine.
I figure.
They're
but I think
good.
These are both games I had high on my list. And the thing about it is, like, Unpacking is such a good experience. The thing about Death's Door is, like, it's fucking fun, but also I actually really came to be surprised by how much I love the story about Death's Door. Like, you play as like, it's kind of one of those things that doesn't look as good as it is watching it, or at least doesn't look as serious as it is, right? Like, you're a crow, so all of a sudden, like, okay, that's cute, like, it's like a crow Zelda action game, whatever. But you are a reaper, so you're going to collect souls from the world, and so death is obviously a big topic in the game, but instead of just that being the setting, and then it's like a cute game where you play like an action top-down isometric game as a crow, it actually has a lot of commentary on, like, the nature of death. And it has, like, it sounds morbid, but it actually has this really, like, positive feel to it. Like, it talks a lot about how death is, like, a natural part of life, and it's important, and it's not something to be mourned, it's something to be, like, celebrated and, like, enjoy the life that person had, and then their death is what allows new life to spring from it. And so instead of it being like a dead, decaying, sad world, it's this really vibrant, colorful world of, like, flowers pop up, and, you know, it's like that's the seed for the new life and a new generation. And I think it's a really, like, good outlook to have on something like that. Like, obviously, like, it's hard to put that into your day-to-day when you're experiencing death because it's such a hurtful topic, but at the same time, like, it's such a positive and, like, good kind of like just viewpoint to hold in general, that like it is an inevitable thing. It is a natural part of life. Like the fact that life is finite is what gives it meaning a lot of times. Like I wasn't expecting that in my cute crow game.
Totally not. Yeah, totally not.
So,
and for me, like Death's Door was one of my favorites indies from when we played it too. And I think the two things for me, like touching on what you said about death, I loved the fact that there was like a funeral for the bosses after you killed them, and you got to sit there and kind of, they would say a few words about them, and then you just kind of sat there. And that's just, I mean, it's not like it's the most emotional thing ever, but it's really unique because games never make you think about your actions of like defeating a boss. Like it's just irrelevant. And in this game, it does mean something. And then the other thing about Death's Door, which is simply outstanding, is it might have one of the best final bosses of all time.
Absolutely.
The way that it kind of just changes what you're doing. But you know how some games get criticized because it's like, oh, the final boss is just way different than what you've been doing all game. Well, this is the opposite of that, where you do everything you've done all game, and it's like one final sort of activity where you get to test all your skills.
Yeah, and like it even has a section where you're like doing more like platforming kind of stuff, because there's an element of that in the game. So like it doesn't just test all your combat skills, it tests like how you are able to utilize all of your like
your whole
movement,
kit.
like your whole kit from every aspect of the game. Like I love Death's Door. I can't wait to see if it ever gets a sequel or like any kind of follow-up game.
I hope it does, honestly. Whatever they do next, I will be there for.
And also, shout out to Pot Boy, the guy with like a soup pot on his head.
Oh my god, I love him.
He's the best.
That's right. I forgot about him.
Yeah, the game is also like genuinely quite funny, but it doesn't go like in your face with the humor all the time. But there's a few characters you run into, and like the guy that owns the soup shop.
My head is made
when
of
he
soup.
makes your soup.
Whatever, yeah. Awesome stuff. So we have a top 10 to order here. The top 10 games remaining are, in no particular order, Returnal, Florence, Hollow Knight, Dark Souls, Telltale's The Walking Dead, Cuphead, Ragnarok, Inscription, The Last of Us, and Persona 5 Royal.
That's a hell of a...
It's a hell of a list.
Hell of a list.
I think I'm prepared to put Florence at 10.
Okay.
I just think this is the part of the list where if you've not played it, I can't get it much higher.
Yeah. I think that's fair. I would put
Hold on, Florence, gotta just say.
Yeah, sorry.
If you have a cell phone.
You guys have cell phones, right?
If you have a cell phone, I want you to take your cell phone and I want you to go to the App Store or wherever you get your apps, and I want you to download Florence. It's like $5 or less, and it made me cry. It's amazing. Similar to Unpacking, about how you're kind of going through and arranging that girl's stuff throughout her life and seeing her life. Like Florence is the same idea, but it's specifically about a relationship and how, you kind of meet Florence and her, and you get to know her, who she is, and then you go through this relationship with her and then see how that plays out. And, I won't spoil what happens, but it is very relatable. And if you've ever had a relationship in real life, I don't know how you wouldn't get emotional over this game. That's all I can say about it without really spoiling it, but it is fucking special.
Man, every time you talk about this game, I genuinely get shivers, and then I want to play it, but then I'm scared to play it because
awesome.
If you cried, I'm going to be an absolute goddamn mess.
Yeah, it's something else, but it's genuinely a must play, and it's just a very unique experience that I think is very meaningful.
One night, I'm going to get like fresh home-baked cookies so that I'm ready to stress eat. And
exactly.
It'll be great. I'll go for like a 5-hour run ahead of time to prep for it. Okay. I think to kind of match Florence, I'm going to say that I will put a game that I think you should play. And then next year, once we've both played them, they are gonna be in top 5, which is Returnal. And I gotta say, like we said, Hades was the first game that kind of like really brought the roguelike meaning. And I would say that Returnal ran away with that idea. So the idea of Returnal, if no one's played it, because it was a PlayStation exclusive, it's on Steam now, but I think it like was one of those games where not tons of people played it.
It's more of like a hidden hit.
Kind of like, it is. It's like everyone who plays it loves it, but not a lot of people played it. But the idea is that you crash land on an unfamiliar planet.
Almost like Metroid.
And you are basically looking to escape. It's horrible. You got to get out. And you immediately find your dead body. And that's how you get your first gun in the game, is you take it off your own corpse. So that's already a little bit concerning. So the game basically goes, it's a roguelike, you do a run, you see how far you can get, and then when you die, you crash land again. And you wake up and your dead body's there, and you continue to go through this loop of like you cannot die, you just keep re-crashing over and over and over again, and you just want to get home and figure out what's going on. So that justifies the roguelike structure, but a lot of the story is kind of told to you in either audio logs that you've left for yourself that make it very clear this has been happening for quite a period of time and it's had an effect on you. And then also, like, there's a lot of very good environmental storytelling where you kind of learn about the planet and some of the history of, like, the culture, like, creatures that used to live here and some of the hostile creatures that are attacking you. So that, first of all, is, like, a fantastic hook. Like, it is such a good mystery. And then the gameplay is just fucking awesome. Like, I would describe it as, like, a bullet hell soulsy like shooter is kind of, I have to put three things together. Like, it's gorgeous. Like, the neon bullets that come at you from all the monsters are amazing. The monster design is incredible. Like, it's a sci-fi game, but I would say it kind of like almost slots into like a Lovecraft horror kind of game as well, with how the design works, and also like the creepy mystery of why you're stuck in this loop. And like the gameplay is just fucking awesome. Every single gun feels really unique and different, and they start out kind of basic, and as you play with them more, they get stronger and they get better, and they keep getting new like abilities that they have on them. And the DualSense functionality on those things. The DualSense functionality. So that's one thing. I don't know how it necessarily works if you play it on PC, but if you play it on PS5, it is the best DualSense. And it has like the raindrops and everything on there. Oh, it has the raindrops you feel. Yeah. It has like different, like how far you hold down the trigger to do different shots. When your ability is ready, it just does a little noise out of the controller for you, so you don't have to look at stuff. The DualSense is so good that I get that horrible dropping feeling from the game when I jump off of a large drop. Like, I don't like that. I don't like roller coasters. I hate that feeling. I've jumped off and then put my controller down because I don't want it to happen to me. But like, it's amazing how you can get that pit of your stomach drop because of something that's vibrating in your hands. The controller specifically gives you that feeling. The controller specifically. Wow. When I never have had that from another game, but the DualSense, when you get the momentum that picks up as you fall, I get that feeling. I didn't know the controller did it. That's wild. It's insane. Oh, and one other cool thing, you eventually get like a sword that you can melee with, which is a really, really strong option in the game. But when you slash with the sword, it's like this. It's kind of like a lightsaber is what it looks like. When you slash with the sword, it does like a slash along the controller in the same direction. It's so fucking cool. I fucking love Returnal. I do have to play Returnal. We must make that a pact for the next one of these top 25. We must. That's a little bit more of a commitment on my end than yours, but it's worth it nonetheless. I'll also recheck out Shovel Knight. Yes. Okay, cool. That's maybe more a little bit more. Returnal is like probably like I just kind of bought it on a whim, and like oh my god, it ranked 6 on my list. Yeah. Sometimes that's how you got to do it. You just got to take a chance. Sometimes it was new and exciting. I wanted a new PS5 game, and I just kind of like. I just had a good feeling about it. You know what that is? That's never a game I would have expected you to be interested in. But you took a chance, and it's like, that's what happens when you take a chance sometimes. It's so fucking good. It feels amazing to play. Like, it's just sublime. Perfect. So now, how do you feel about Ragnarok? I love God of War Ragnarok so very much. I don't love it more than the other games I've played on this list. Neither do I. Do we think it's an 8? Now, this is interesting because God of War 2018 is our very first ever winner. The thing is that back 3 years ago, we'd played so many less games. We've done 3 years of this podcast. That's true. And a lot of these games are games that are showing up for the first time, or they're showing at one person's played them but the other person had not, or I could do Ragnarok here, I think, or we could make another trade. You know what I like about Ragnarok here is, let's be candid, Persona 5, The Last of Us, and Inscription are all going to be in the top 5. Right? Like, I think that's just reasonable. That's true. Now, if we put Ragnarok down here, that means both of us can have one of our top games in that top 5. That's true. Whereas otherwise it would be Ragnarok and then, like, one person. Okay, well, I'm down to put Ragnarok here. I really love God of War Ragnarok, and, like,
anyone that listened to this show for any length of time just knows how much insanity we were talking about this game for years before it came out. And it lived up to those expectations.
Absolutely.
It was fantastic, you know? I just think when you're getting down to making, you know, this high of a ranking list, like there was I found that game was a little long. Like I think it could have been a little shorter, you know, not that we're nitpicking here because we have to. We're ranking so highly. And it's not even that God of War, I've got a lot of bad things to say about it. I loved the story. I love where they took the characters, like the twists and turns that happen in that game and the outcome, like the way that game ends. We're going to be doing a spoiler cast soonish. But like Jesus, it just keeps you on the edge of your seat. Not to mention like Kratos is so much fun to play as in that game with the way that you have your both weapons from the start and, you know, you add to your arsenal. You get to play as Atreus and do all that cool stuff.
Yeah,
like
and
I
loved playing as Atreus too. He did not feel like a secondary character. Like you could easily have a whole game that was just Atreus. Like he was so fleshed out and fun.
And he was such a nice change of pace too because he had so much more mobility. And Kratos is like, you know, kind of big. He's not you can grapple around, but he's not like very mobile, you know. Whereas with Atreus you have some of those archery moves and you can kind of dive.
Yeah, he's a little more lithe and kind of flexible. Yeah, I think it's kind of one of those things where it just really comes down, I think, to personal preference because, like you said, I do think the game was a little bit long, but I really don't have very many like big complaints.
Yeah.
And I just think it's one of those things where God of War Ragnarok was exactly what I wanted it to be. It at least met, if not exceeded, my expectations.
Yeah, it fixed a lot of the problems from the first game.
It fixed a lot of problems from the first game, and then it was number 14 on my list because I just prefer other types of games a little bit more.
Yeah.
And like I fucking love Ragnarok, and 8th is awesome, but I think that's reasonable.
I think it is too. And I think I think I still prefer 2018 at the end of the day. It ranked one higher on my own list. Like on my list I put them together because I think they really do. They're a duality.
See, I cheated and just put Ragnarok and didn't put 2018. So I was like, that gives me a new spot. I will say, I think of the two, I prefer Ragnarok just because I think it shores up some of the weaknesses from the first game. And I also think that I love Odin so much. I think the characters in that game are a little bit elevated. I love getting more of Brock and Sindri. Like Brock ended up being one of my favorite characters. I really liked Angrboda, and
I loved Angrboda. That's true.
Her relationship with Atreus. So I think because of what they added, it is excelled for me. Although that being said, the first story was so tight with the father-son relationship that that game was
the first
beautiful.
game felt like a fairy tale. This game feels more like an epic.
Yeah,
you know, and it just comes down to which context. But that's why for me I ranked them together because they're really a continuation.
They are. It's kind of like how we sort of cheated with like Danganronpa, right? Like you couldn't play Ragnarok without having experienced 2018 at least.
Not if you want to play it with any kind of context.
At least like you want to, watch some YouTube cutscenes or something because it's so integrally tied. Like it is a story for as much combat and fun stuff there is to do in the game. It is story first, and I love that for a big action series.
Same. It's awesome. What can you say? I can't wait to see what comes next for that franchise.
Absolutely. For sure. Anything they do, I'm a
day one. There's no debate. I'll buy anything they make. There's no doubt until they prove it wrong, which they never have.
Unless they make a skateboarding game.
Kratos skateboarding. Could you imagine? All right, are you gonna play as Freya on her dirt bike, or is it gonna be Kratos on a skateboard?
I think Atreus on the scooter.
Oh my god! All right, so if we're gonna put, like you said, Persona 5 Royal, The Last of Us, Inscription are gonna be in the top 5. So now let's do the same thing again. Then, which of your games do you want to put?
Well, I think we could do the opposite. Which of your games do you want not in the top 5? Because you have Cuphead and Telltale, and I have Dark Souls and Hollow Knight. So
that's true.
I will say for yours, if my point of view skews you at all, I would put Cuphead, and I know for you probably Hollow Knight.
I would pick Hollow Knight.
Souls, so.
That being said, I'm putting Cuphead down here. I think I can't not have the Telltale up there.
That's fair.
What are you picking for yours?
Oh man, it's really tough. I put them as 3 and 4 on my list.
Yeah,
which makes it hard. I think I have to put Dark Souls in the top 5, and Hollow Knight goes down here.
Okay.
Can
I have Cuphead at 6 because Returnal is ahead of Florence, and also I believe we did the same trade down here with, oh no, that's not true. But
That's
this is
true.
this.
But Resident Evil's over. Okay.
What
Okay, I will take that if I can have Dark Souls at 4.
Fine.
Yes, we did it.
We can do that. We can do that. You know why?
Okay,
It's because I've played some of Dark Souls and I'm way more familiar with it than you are with Telltale.
I know nothing about it.
So I think
Telltale.
that makes sense. And you should keep it that way until you play.
That is the correct.
So if I could Cuphead here.
Cuphead.
Let's talk about these games for a second.
Talk
about Dark Souls, or talk about Hollow Knight.
Okay.
Tell me about Hollow Knight.
So Hollow Knight is the most beautiful game you'll ever play. Well, maybe that's not true, but it's one of them. It's gorgeous. That's better. One of the most incredible atmospheres. It's got that city where it's just raining outside and you hear it dripping everywhere. It's so fucking good. It's a great platformer. It's got amazing combat and boss fights. The map that you build as you go, where you go into a new area and you're lost, you don't know where you are, and you finally run into the map guy who fills out your map for you. Like, it's the game that keeps on giving. It's made by 2 guys, and it's fucking big. It is a large Metroidvania with amazing combat. And then every time you think you're done, you're like, oh, there's actually 5 free DLCs. Cool. I guess I'm doing a boss rush now, and I guess I'm going to like a whole new area, and now there's like a circus side quest that's going on. Like, this game is just jam-packed with things to do. And the crazy part about it, and I think this is maybe the only game maybe Sekiro also on this for me. But other than that, it's maybe the only game I would say that it kind of doesn't have any problems. Like, it's just perfect and it's just consistent all the way through. Like, there's no bugs, there's no area that's like kind of a letdown or like a bummer to go through. Like, there's no part of the game where like I actually feel like I have a complaint for it.
That's awesome.
Like,
I'm glad you feel that way.
It's just solid.
That's awesome. I liked Cuphead Hollow Knight from what I played. I just didn't play it. You know, you fall off of things sometimes.
I think it's one of those games where it starts out and it's definitely of the Metroidvanias more combat focused, but there's a lot of good platforming, but it definitely starts you out kind of slow. Like, you just have a jump basically. Like, you get a lot of mobility later in the game, like kind of classic stuff. Like, you can hang off of ledges and you can like double jump and you have dashes and you get a couple other things I won't spoil. And so you get quite a robust system for traveling through the world, but it does start off quite slow. And I think it's because they want you to kind of get the hang of the combat a little bit before they start throwing in all these like crazy ways to move around. So it's definitely something I've noticed, like playing it a second time as well. I was like, oh my God, like I just want to dash and do these things. But you get them, I think, relatively well paced despite that, but I can definitely see how it feels a little bit like minimal if you don't play very much of it.
Yeah. Well, I should play more. There's really no excuse, especially since I started it. So
and I love the bug world. Like, it's just so fun. Everything's bugs. Like,
yeah, I like the theme too. I gotta say, like, I did find it a bit bleak. Like, like it's very grayscale and like it is beautiful, but I would love some color, you know. Like,
see, that's the thing too. The first area is, but you go to like big, lush, green, foresty areas, and then you go to like blue, like rainy city areas, and then you go to like there's a beehive that's like bright orange and yellows and like.
So yeah, that's the stuff I'd like to see because I was like, oh, just come in, you know. Like, Shovel Knight is so colorful. And I'm like,
it's almost kind of like Pokemon flavor, where like each area kind of has like a color associated with it.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
Speaking of games that also have incredible combat, we got to talk about Cuphead for a minute because my God, Cuphead is so special.
It's
like
nails hard.
It is hard as hell. It is so fun though. Like the bullet hell genre is oftentimes like dodging so many, like they're just like you're in an open area, right? But this is like a side-scrolling boss game, but you're dodging. Like, it's so fun to learn how to move out of the way of all these things, and like that bullet hell dodging and like getting through things is just such a amazing feeling when you pull it off. And in combination with that, with Cuphead, it's like the most visually pleasing game ever. The way it's animated like a retro cartoon, and like you said about Hollow Knight, like Cuphead is just flawless. There's not so much as a screen, like a stutter. You know, everything behaves exactly as you'd want it to. You're always in full control of your character's mobility. You know, there's the parry going on, which is, you know, very precise and feels good to control. There's the run and gun levels, which are the side scrolling ones. They're a little weaker.
I would say that's my only complaint with Cuphead is the run and gun levels are definitely not as fun as the boss fights, but sometimes they are nice to kind of like swap the pacing up. It just sucks when you like die a few times on those and you've got to do it a few times before you get back to like the main part of the game.
Yeah. But that's the thing about Cuphead, which I appreciate so much, is it gets you back into the game so quickly, and it's not like other games where you gotta start the boss. There's a lot of things to do. Like when you start a run in Cuphead, you're just like at the boss and you die, you're immediately back at the start. You can just do it again. You can, fight him 15 times, but it'll only take you like less than a minute. If you die right away, you can start start again. And I just love Cuphead so much. The DLC that came out, we're obviously not talking about the DLC, but the DLC was maybe better than the main game. Like some of the bosses in there were just amazing. And those new rooms they added in, which were like the parry rooms specifically, and you're trying to do combine it and jump. They took out the running guns and added those instead. And it's just like, what an immaculate piece of art Cuphead is.
Cuphead is great. I've never actually beat Cuphead. I really need to go back and finish it because I adored Cuphead. Like what's funny is I think Cuphead to me is like harder than a lot of the Souls games. Like I think it's so hard, but it's so satisfying. And you get that like progress bar of how like close you were to beating the fight. And sometimes that's helpful to see your progress. And sometimes it's like you can't see where your character is versus where the end is. And you're like, oh, so if I hit him literally one more bullet, that's all it was.
That progress bar made me want to tear my hair out a few times when I would just be like, I was literally like, he's dead. Like this guy's dead. Like, you know? But,
and I think one other thing to say about Cuphead too is it's so creative. Like the boss designs are so interesting. Like you fight like a carnival where like it's like bumper cars fighting you, and then it's like some random dude, and like there's like a treat one where like they keep shooting out different like types of candy at you that has different moves, and like it's just so like it all fits in that cartoon world, but it's so unique and weird and creative as well.
It's the kind of thing like people will drop anvils on you, and there's there's the cuckoo clock one where you're in the plane and you're shooting, and then the bird like comes out of the clock and it's like flapping its wings. It's just animated, so like part of the thrill of it is just getting the boss to the next phase of its health bar, so you can see like how it's going to transform or what's going to happen to it.
I don't think you can ever fight a boss in the game and they're going ooh, and then when it
doesn't, you die when it transforms because you're so distracted. What a game. Cuphead is awesome. And that's another game that took forever to make, so who knows when we'll see what comes next. But I mean it's just so unique in what it provides. I think there's nothing quite like Cuphead.
No corners cut, and just like a vision done to perfection basically.
And with that, we have 5 games to go. We have a top 5 here. The games remaining: Persona 5 Royal, The Last of Us, Inscription, Telltale's The Walking Dead, and Dark Souls. Now, I think we already agreed. I'm down to put Telltale's The Walking Dead here at 5. Let me just start Walking Dead. I love this game. This is probably one of my favorite stories of any game, and I mean I named Clementine, my hedgehog, after one of the characters in this game. To be fair, I haven't played it in a while, and so I guess it has that going against it, but this game has just stuck with me for so many years. It's one of those, it's an older style Telltale game, so it's definitely got that kind of shifty engine, and unlike Cuphead and Hollow Knight, it definitely has some like it lags and it's not great, but just the story of Clementine and like Lee finds this girl, and she's just it's adjacent with Walking Dead, the TV show, like same kind of story, but it's not related. And he just finds her, and like her parents are gone. She's got this walkie-talkie, and she's like, "Oh, I'm in my treehouse. I'm waiting for my parents to come home." And Lee's just like, he's looking around like this is a deserted neighborhood. Like there's some shit going on. He's like, "Look, little girl, like we gotta go. Like
your parents
this isn't right." And you meet some characters along the way. You meet what's his name? I forget his name on the top of my head. He has a son named Duck anyway, and he becomes like your friend, and you make some choices, determining like who's gonna live, who's gonna die, kind of things. There's some scenes that are I don't want to spoil them because I know you're gonna play it, but they just circumvent your expectations sometimes, and it's so dramatic. Who lives and dies kind of thing, and the whole time it's circling around this little girl who's no longer like no older than 6 or 7 years old, and she's just going through this horrible series of events and somehow coming out on the other side, and despite all the things going on and this death and horrible stuff around her. It's just an experience that I loved, and I played all 4 parts, but that first one is just something special.
Wow.
So you should play it.
I really want to play it. It's almost like a crime I haven't yet played it.
Well, it's been around for long enough.
Maybe I'll do Florence and Walking Dead in return for Returnal.
Sure, and it's not that long. I mean, you click through and it gives you the chapter recaps and all that stuff, but it's definitely not a huge time commitment. Although once you played the first chapter, you might want to play the other ones.
Yeah, so. And I like that solid game. Like we got Detroit on here later on in the list, so like I do. Sometimes you want a good story like that. And sometimes you just want to cry. Like, sometimes you want just kind of a sad story. Or maybe that's just me, but I kind of gravitate towards those kind of things, so it appeals to me in that way. Yeah.
I would be interested to go back and play that on another... Like, I would like to play it again, too, if only to experience it in the context of having played more of these style of games since.
Right. Okay, well, we should play it together.
We could play it together.
Because then you could, like, see... Because I might do something different than you did, so that's interesting. And then kind of like we played Heavy Rain like that, and it was a lot of fun.
That might be an idea. Maybe we should look into that.
All right.
That means Dark Souls is going here. That means
Dark Souls is at number 4.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, this was started... Well, actually, that's Demon Souls. But a lot of people didn't play that game. I mean, it's just fucking Dark Souls. What was it voted? Like, most influential game of all time or something? Whether or not that holds any sway, who knows? But it's just... It's so good. I love the world of Dark Souls is really what puts it up. Like... It is definitely not a flawless game. There are certain areas that definitely got rushed out. But there are other areas where there's so much beauty in the game, and it's such a bleak and horrible world that's falling apart and dying, and like the flame fades. And I think Dark Souls is the perfect one for how it packages its story and how you traverse it. Like, you spend the first half of the game without the ability to fast travel. And I love that because you become so intimately connected with the world that you're in and how it relates. Like, I know in open world games, they always say like, oh, if you look off in the distance, you can go to wherever that is. But that's true in Dark Souls. It's not an open world game, but the way that it is designed and what it always gets like praised for is that cohesion of level design. And you'll go like down to the very depths of the world and then back up to these like high towers, and they make logical sense where they go, and there's all these passages, and you'll pop out somewhere like, oh my god, that's where I am. Like, that makes so much sense. Like, I can't believe I'm back here.
I think that's my favorite aspect of, you know, Bloodborne. I guess is the same thing, right? Like, that's my favorite aspect of those games is the way the maps are designed.
And so Bloodborne does that really well with like Central Yharnam, but like some of the other areas are kind of like just sort of off on their
but when
own.
it happens, it's like it's an amazing feeling, right?
Exactly. But Dark Souls like is that to like an extreme, and I love the story. I love that, like, you know, being the chosen undead, but the uncertainty of what that really means. And you have these characters that are, the whole idea of it is like, don't go hollow because the world is falling apart. And there's a lot of like allegories for like, you have to find purpose and to keep moving on. And like the amount of people I've read online that have said like Dark Souls helped me understand my depression and like deal with it, because that theme of like finding something to care for and to latch on for, otherwise you like hollow and like wilt, is like it's not an unintentional like allegory to put, right? But the way they kind of explore it without really like dwelling on
not
it,
too heavy-handed.
It's not heavy-handed, and you could definitely play the game and not have that kind of reading to it, but it's definitely something in the game, and a lot of characters address it, and you see a lot of them kind of go through their trajectory. And obviously the combat is awesome. It's a lot slower than some of the other Souls games, especially like once you get to Elden Ring, but I actually really like the slow. It's a little bit more methodical, a little bit more like, you know, I have to be very precise or very intentional every time I decide to take a swing of my sword. It's just a fantastic game, and the fact that it like spawned this whole genre essentially, like it blew up, like I love it. I love the storytelling of being drip fed and reading things and deciding if I think they're true or not, and like putting pieces of the puzzle together and looking around as I'm going, like, hang on, that statue actually looks like this. And I just think it's a delight for if you want to engage with that kind of stuff. And
yeah, that's what you're looking for. It's like it's a treasure trove.
Yeah, it is.
Awesome. Yeah,
it absolutely is.
Such a cool game, and you know, it, like you said, it's just led to. It really is so influential because so many games have taken pieces from it, whether it's the maps or the, you know, the bosses or the bonfire system or like those type of things, the weapon degradation. Is that in that game?
It is, yeah.
It is, yeah.
So yeah, I think like Demon Souls made it, but Dark Souls I think was the game that like really got it perfectly. Like, and like the Estus system, and like, okay, I can keep going, I got a couple Estus left, and it's like, oh, I'm out of Estus. Like, do I keep going? Maybe I'll die, or do I go back to the safety of the bonfire? Or like, oh, this boss is really tough, but oh, I figured it out. And it's just, it's such a crazy game to kind of wrap your head around, and I absolutely adore it. If it wasn't for Bloodborne, I mean, it's the GOAT, but Bloodborne came along and was like, what if Lovecraft
Bloodborne was awesome?
It's like, damn it, you win.
Well, as much as we'd love to keep talking about this, we have a final 3 games to rank here, and this is... I'm going to let you take the lead on this, because obviously we got my baby here on the list still. I'm very biased towards wanting it to be at the top, so I don't want to sway your opinion here, but how are you feeling on these games?
I mean, I fucking love all 3 of these games so much. I have one I think I want to win.
Okay.
And I think I'm curious. Let's do number 3 first. Do you have one out of these 3, Persona 5 Royal, Last of Us Inscription, that you think is like a 3rd place?
I don't know. It's so hard. I mean...
For you, it's easier. You really have to choose between 2, because I know 5...
Well, Persona's my number 1 for sure.
Persona's your number 1.
I would... On a given day, I could take either of these at 2.
Yeah.
I mean, we can talk about them all together. We're having a group conversation here now, right?
Right.
The Last of Us is perfect in just a couple of ways that Ragnarok and God of War 2018 are not. The flaws of both those, Ragnarok's a little long, maybe a little bit bigger in a scope. 2018 God of War is like, it's shorter, it's more concise, but there's a little bit of repetition in there, Yeah. Is it really worth going through all your crafting and like, what are you really changing getting those stat points? The Last of Us doesn't have any of that. The story is tight, it's concise, everything, every scene matters, the relationship between Joel and Ellie. You are upgrading your guns and crafting that way, but it's not about stats. It's literally just about like, I'm going to make my gun better. Maybe it's more powerful, but it's not like you're tweaking little armor pieces.
It's more like, which gun would you like to use?
Yeah,
it's this one.
Exactly.
Okay,
so
cool.
I just think The Last of Us is such a special game, and like similar to Dark Souls, like The Last of Us obviously has spawned a whole media franchise now and is like this amazing story that's been transcended games and has become like, everyone loves The Last of Us that's watched it now. It's just... And it all started from this game, and I just think the performances, the the mechanics, everything is awesome. And
I will say, I guess as a disclaimer too, we're not considering The Last of Us 2 involved in this. This is purely just the first game. I played this game like only a year and a half ago, I want to say, and like it holds up so incredibly well. Like, this is not the newest remake that came out. This is a game where like...
You played the remaster though,
I played the remastered, yeah. And it still looks amazing. I was amazed by how like the world felt like so tangible. Like Joel, if you hit someone and you're beside like a desk, he might slam the person's head into the desk, and like there's so much like... They really do feel like they're kind of like in their environment.
Right? Or like they'll put their hand on like a door as they go past, stuff like that.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. They'll kind of like touch stuff and like interact with things, and like, if you shine a flashlight in Ellie's eyes, she'll put her hand up to block it. Like there's so many little details that really like give a lot of life to the game. That like I was surprised because it was a bit of an older title at the time that I played it. But then like, and the acting, the facial animation, it just all still like it's timeless.
Yeah, and the intro of that game, like when like what happens with Joel, like, we can spoil it at this point, like what happened, Sarah and all that stuff, like it's just like such a cold open that you're not expecting when the game starts, and it just sets the tone of like, I'm talking about The Walking Dead and how Clementine's like stuck in the treehouse and like it's tone setting, but I mean this is just like on another level.
The fact that they make you play as Sarah at the beginning too, I think is so intentional and so important, and it like it draws you into her, and then when Joel loses her, like that performance is so like dripping, and then Joel for the whole rest of the game, everything keeps going back to Sarah. You see his watch all the time, it like reflects light. You'll see Joel, if Ellie brings up anything that reminds him of it, he'll look down at his watch on his wrist. Like I caught that a few times and was like had the biggest smile on my face and then wanted to cry. Like,
it just goes like Naughty Dog is so meticulous in this world that they've built, or they did build Last of Us, and I mean it's awesome. I don't know though, Inscription also, let's weigh them back and forth. Inscription is a very difficult game to talk about without spoiling.
Inscription's nuts.
So let's spoil it on the show a little bit, and we'll just say skip ahead if you don't want to hear it, because we got to talk about it. We got to get through this. But like, where do you start? Inscription, first of all, the card game is fun as hell. Even if it was just a card game, I love that, like, the setting of it's like, oh, you're in this like weird, dingy, like backwoods cabin, and like everything's like dirty and musty. We were just watching
Yellow Jackets. It's kind of like that.
It could be that cabin. There's like this guy across from you. There's weird trinkets all around. These cards are like weirdly pagan and like ritualistic, and like there's some weird
and
shit.
Everything is like texture to it. Like the scoring system as you're playing the card game is these like teeth, and they like fill in a bowl, and if they like get too many in the bowl, they overfill and they go like clinking and clattering along down the table, and like oh, it's just,
your health is candles, and like he literally like snuffs out your life if you lose. Like he'll blow out the candle. Oh man. There's just like so many unsettling themes of like sacrificing, and like the cards are like you have to sacrifice a card to like play a better one, and sometimes the cards are like, please no, like don't sacrifice me and stuff, and you're like, oh, I feel bad about this, but I'm gonna lose if I don't.
And you're playing this like creepy guy in the cabin that's just like in darkness, and like if you lose, he like reaches for you, and it's so terrifying every time.
But then the layers just start to unpack, and it's like you could get up from the table at any time, like in the middle of a game or not, and like look around, and there's little like lock boxes in a style of like an escape room that are just placed around. You gotta like solve little puzzles,
and there's like little clues that like you get that then influence the card game, and then there's things in the card game that give you clues to like do things in the cabin, and like it's just, it keeps surprising you. Like you cannot play Inscription for like a sitting without being like surprised by like a new layer to the game that is introduced.
And then by the time you get, you crack it open, and it becomes like there's FMV parts with like a guy that bought this fake pack of cards, and there's like, totally different gameplay styles that you get into playing as in different locations and characters. Maybe we won't spoil those all.
Yeah, I don't think we should necessarily.
It just gets like outrageous and becomes this thing that you never would have expected it to be. And the whole time it's just so compelling, and it's all based around such a fun game. Like the card game itself, after you beat the main game, there's also like an endless mode you can play and just like play the card game, unlock new cards. I played through that
endless mode. I beat the endless mode because you can unlock like different new decks after you beat things with certain parameters. You can kind of add a bit more difficulty levels, kind of like the Hades Pact of Heat, but just a little bit more limited. And I played all the way through that because I just beat Inscription and wanted more Inscription. And the card game is like, it's just such a solid card game. I love Ant Deck, by the way.
Ant Deck is the
greatest. Ant Deck all the way.
Yeah. I wish, the one thing Inscription does not have that I really wish that it did, and I don't know how it would work because of like the way the game plays, but I would love to try like a multiplayer of Inscription.
To play like against
like
someone?
It would be very fun if you could have a deck and sort of play against each other, but I don't know how it would work because the game isn't really the same rules on each side of the table.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing. But you're like going around, you're fusing cards, but you don't just mix them together. They like sacrifice each other, and there's these weird like
they get like sawed in
people
half
in the forest that like want to eat you, and you could sacrifice things at a fire to make them stronger, but they might get cannibalized. It's just like so creepy.
It's very unsettling. Like it is borderline like, I wouldn't call it a horror game, but I've definitely felt uncomfortable sitting at night alone playing this game.
Definitely. There's a couple times like when you lose and like he reaches for you. I've been sitting in this room in the dark. Yeah. And I've like closed my eyes like, before.
When he takes the picture, my God, this stupid camera. And like, it's so neat because as you're doing the runs, like you kind of do runs of this card game over and over again, trying to make it to the end, but you're not just trying to make it to the end, you're also trying to figure out how to get the hell out of here and escape the situation that you're in.
God.
Man, it's such a good game. It's so unique and interesting. It's by far the best card game I've ever played.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt about that.
That being said, I think I would put Inscription at number 3.
Would you?
And my reason is that while I loved the second and third halves of the game for being really unique and changing up my, like, it kept breaking my mind, once I look back at it without the, like, being in the moment of the shock, I actually think that to play the first third is my favorite
Same.
third. I think it is the most fun. The other ones, the second and third half of the game are interesting because of how they keep evolving, but I wouldn't play like an endless mode or go back and play those ones. Whereas the first is like, I think, the strongest element of the game. And I think if it had continued on the same quality throughout the whole thing, it would be a different story. But because the first third is by far the best, and the other parts of the game are still fantastic, but rely a little bit on that like surprise factor, that maybe it would be my number 3 game.
Yeah, I mean, it's really semantics, right? Like, I think games can be surprising. The problem is you can't put the surprise back in a bottle.
Yeah.
And so how do you value that surprise on its own value? But I agree. I think I agree with you because, I mean, we're also arguing against 2 games that, like, I have no problem
like
putting
you
above
said,
it.
any single one of these games being number 1, I'm more than delighted by it. But I think if I really had to choose, like, basically what it comes down to is, in my heart, which one do I feel the strongest towards? And it's not Inscription.
I think I agree with you there. When I played Inscription, my immediate thought was, this is going to win. Like, when I first had played it, I legit thought it was going to win this.
On another day, it might. On another day, it might. I think I also too like.
I think when I said that too, I was devaluing how much you like Persona 5.
I think it was Persona 5.
Are we doing it? Is Persona 5 gonna make the Hall of Fame?
See, here's the problem. We should talk about. Persona 5.
This.
Now, my potential hesitation to put it at 1 is I have not finished the Royal. True. I am in the middle of playing it, and while I have experienced a lot of quality of life aspects that I love that the Royal has introduced, and I've met some of the new characters who I think are really interesting so far, I have not finished the Royal. And so that makes it tough for me to judge.
That's true.
And the other thing is I think of the 2 of them, I think The Last of Us is the game that I would put as 1, but we should talk about the Royal and go through it first.
We should, because Persona, oh my god. Is there a game that just feels as smooth? Is there a game that takes over your hands and plays itself like Persona 5?
Persona 5 is the most stylish game I've ever played.
You want to talk about soundtracks, everybody. Now, we can talk about Metal Hellsinger. Like, that's a great licensed soundtrack. Yeah. It's awesome. But Persona 5 has the best soundtrack created for a game ever.
100%.
Like, if Lynn comes to concert, I will go.
I will do anything to go to that concert if Lynn ever came here.
The game itself is just, I mean, I think the best thing that makes it the most unique is the time system, right? Yeah. Like you're balancing your time between the 2 worlds. You're like the neighborhood kid at the high school student, and then you're the phantom thief going into the metaverse and changing people's evil ways and making them good people. And the whole time you're like balancing out your schedule. You're like, okay, well, we got to go and do this palace, but I got some time after school. Do I want to hang out with my boy Ryuji?
Am I gonna go do that big burger bang challenge?
Or like, what am I gonna do? And
go play some baseball.
That's what I love the most about it, because there's so many other games where you would like, okay, I'm gonna get here, I'm gonna max all these relationships as far as I can go before I go into the next palace of the game, and then I'm gonna do everything I can. But Persona just throws that all out the window, and it relieves all your stress because you can't do everything. So now you just have to do the things you want to do, and there's no other way to do it. So you're just not, you don't have that burden on you, right? Yeah.
I think Persona 5 is such an interesting game for me because I, as a general stance, don't like JRPGs. And I'm 1 and 2 on this list are potentially going to be this JRPG. And I think it does so many things. It solves all the problems that I have with JRPGs. And I think if I was going to have a gripe with Persona, I would say it's still too long.
It is too long.
It's so fucking long. And the fact that Royal adds a whole nother like palace onto the end is like, oh my, it was already too long. Like, we didn't need this. And I think there's a lot of things that could be like just cut down. Like, a lot of the themes are really interesting. I love the characters, but like, okay, I get it. Adults take advantage of people, and people who have power abuse it. And like, those are great themes. And I love when it's explored, but like, they do reiterate the same kind of thing over and over and over again. And it's
very verbose in certain ways. Like, you sit there and that's part of the, like, I find that mostly I enjoyed that because the amount of time that you sink in with the characters, like you begin to feel like you know these people. Like these are your friends. You know? Like when I played this game for the first time, I was, spending quite a bit of time at home, and I was, had some isolation and all this stuff going on. And I just was like, these are my people now, like I'm hanging with people. And it was awesome. But when they have those moments where it goes on for too long, like they definitely need to.
I had the exact same experience because I played Persona 5 for the first time after I split up with my partner who I'd lived with for 5 years and was living on my own for the first time. And that was very different in like not to go weirdly into my personal life, but like that's a big change. It's very lonely to suddenly, be by yourself when you never used to be. And like, I just coincidentally started playing Persona 5 around that time. I was like, oh, these are my friends. They felt nostalgic to hang out with. Like, I just really had a lot of charm from all the characters. It has that kind of wholesome, like, feeling where like it's a group of friends hanging out. They're believable. They're all funny and unique in their own way. And I love that element of the game, but I think replaying the Royal now, and I still have those feelings towards the characters, and when I first started playing, was surprised by how much I cared about them. Like immediately meeting Ryuji, I was like, yes, I love this guy. Like he's my best friend.
He's just this total bro.
I love Ryuji. And those feelings are still very strong, but I think playing it for the second time, I've noticed the flaws a little bit more because it's just like I'm not focusing on things as much because I kind of know what's coming. So I think the game is not perfect, but what it does for the JRPG system is phenomenal. Like the combat is fantastic. It doesn't get repetitive. Part of it is from having the creature capture system where you're using different personas all the time. Part of it is the really smart elemental system of combat kind of turns into a puzzle where like using a super effective move isn't just more damage and therefore like objectively better. It also downs enemies, and if you get all enemies down, you can do like a big
an all-out attack.
The all attack, which first of all is one of the coolest looking animations in any game. It never gets old. And second of all, it becomes like kind of a puzzle because you don't just want to down one enemy, you want to get them all down together. So you have to kind of figure out like which way you're going to do that.
You're like swapping in and out party members and like, okay, well, Joker has every element because he has like, these different personas, but I'm really lacking an ice type guy right now. So I better bring Yosuke with me because like we're in this palace and I know there's guys here that are weak to ice.
Exactly. And then like the game keeps having really interesting bosses or characters that have like various other things you have to worry about on top of the already strong system. So the combat stays great, where normally I find they become kind of boring partway through. It's
because the combat's fast. You can get in and out of battles so quickly. You can also do like an auto battle thing if you're really fighting weak guys. Like those RPGs, like the old ones just are so slow.
You get so bogged down.
And that's Persona is like immaculately refines that into such a workable system of like, you don't have to wait for the battle to start.
Yeah.
It's just you're in it and you can just control right away.
Exactly. And then because you swap between the like dungeon crawling system where you're going around these like really cool, unique palace designs to then you're doing kind of the more social sim where you're like, what am I going to do after school? Am I going to hang out with someone? Am I going to go to the library and study? Am I going to read? Like, they balance each other really well, that just when you're kind of getting the point where you've had enough of one, it's time to do the other one. And like, I think without that balance, I would get tired of one aspect, but it just perfectly is like, okay, I'm kind of itching for some more fighting. Let's go to the dungeon. And then like, okay, that was pretty heavy. Like, I kind of want to like get to know like Haru a little bit more. So like, oh, she's available today. Like, perfect. I'll hang out with her.
She's hanging out on the roof.
She's on the roof. She's watering their garden. Like, things are great.
And I you know what? Another thing about this game that I just love too, like in comparison to like playing Persona 4, is just the palaces themselves are so unique, right? Like their design, I wouldn't say they're really puzzles. There's not a lot of puzzle solving in Persona, but there's definitely like, well, this palace has a lot of key cards and you're trying to unlock, like at the bank, you're trying to unlock all the different safes. And then there's the one like on the cruise ship where you're turning into a mouse and kind of going through these little tunnels. So they all have their own sort of quirky mechanics, although it's not like puzzle solving. But by the time you spend enough, or like, you make it through the palace, you kind of get familiarized with it and its tips and tricks and what you're looking for. And, like, okay, we can go to the safe room over here and then recharge my things, get my characters powered back up and push on a little bit further. How far are you going to push your luck into the palace before you run out of resources and you got to leave for the day? It's that kind of like similar to like the Estus, right? And like how far you're gonna make it before you're gonna game over. Just push your luck, that kind of thing. And then the second time through, like when I played the Royal, you almost, like you said, you get to know it, and you almost like. You can almost do better the second time. Like I found I was able to beat the palaces in less days, so you get more of the free time afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. What an experience.
Yeah.
I think the Royal is amazing. It's unfortunate you've not beaten the Royal because the story goes in some very different ways, especially like near the end. Most of the new content is at the end. And there's some twists and turns that are unexpected. I think you'll like them personally, just based on what I know you like about Persona, but it's just unfortunate you've not made it.
Yeah, I think this could be a slightly different conversation in a few months when I've beaten it. And so there's kind of a selfish part of me that wants The Last of Us to be game 1 and then Persona 5 Royal to be 2. And then like maybe next year I have the like gumption.
I mean, that's
to push
true.
it out.
That's true. I think
but
for that argument,
Returnal's going to win next year, so that's irrelevant.
I think there is something to be said for the game that wins having been played by both of us, because it is. I think that is important. I think that the nuance here is that you have beaten Persona 5.
Yeah, which is
Persona 5
the same
itself
game.
could still win the list even if it wasn't the Royal.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing.
And I guess that's the disclaimer as well, as I think Persona 5, I like just going based off of Persona 5 only without like the bits of Royal that I've gotten to enjoy and experience, I still think I put it 2. So it's not being held back because there's an extra version I haven't fully engaged with. Like it is still in that 2. It's just that the Royal would maybe potentially like elevate it higher. But I just want to come down to it, as much as I love the characters in Persona 5, when I think about the story that touched me the most, like The Last of Us, especially, maybe slightly biased or bolstered by the show being out recently and reliving that, it's just such a tight written story, and like the amount of emotion I feel towards those characters and how they kind of grow and how grounded they are, and like I think it just hits on a level that, well, I love Persona and they're very meaningful to me. They don't hit me in that exact same kind of way where they feel like that extra little bit real.
Well, The Last of Us is very special. It is. You know, I have one last argument in my bag of tricks, which is that Bloodborne made the list as the winner last time, which is, though I love it, it's clearly your pick over mine.
Right.
So that's my only argument. However, I love The Last of Us, like, obviously Persona is my favorite, but like these are all amazing. Like I just said, Inscription could have won the other one. Easily.
If we do this tomorrow, Inscription might be the winner.
Yeah,
like just happens to be the day that we're talking.
And just for the sake of the list, like I said, I think The Last of Us can be number 1, if only because we've both beaten it. Like I've beaten that game multiple times. You know, it's just, and now that I think the show coming out, you could argue like, oh, it's like made our opinions higher. But at the same time, I think the show reminded me of how amazing of a story that is. Right. And like I think what's so special about The Last of Us too is I think it's the kind of story that anyone could take something from. Whether it's the personal relationship between Joel and Ellie, or if it's like the sense of loss, or if it's the fact that like you're not in control of your circumstances, or like what does a community mean? You know, like all those types of things. It's just so humanizing. I want to say too that I think the way that The Last of Us ends is a perfect ending. Like we talked about Death's Door being perfect with like the boss fight, but the way that the story ends in The Last of Us, where you have Joel in the hospital and he makes that decision that like you could very easily say is objectively the wrong decision in saving Ellie there, because it's selfish and it's potentially dooming like countless people that could be like potentially cured by her immunity and her sacrifice. And the fact that she wants to do it is very important. And so Joel makes that decision to be selfish and to like take Ellie, and it's this crazy contradictory moment, because the whole time you play the game, you're just willing Joel to let his guard down and finally just like
call Ellie his daughter and like take that barrier down and just like be honest with her about how much he cares about her. And then when he finally does, it's in this horrible way that like is this really morally gray decision, and it's going against what she wants. But at the same time, it's so relatable in the sense of like, if that was your loved one on the table, are you saying, can you really say definitively 100% that you wouldn't do it? Like,
and that's I think what makes the game so special is it leaves that kind of question in your mind. And I don't think a lot of things don't do that, you know, and that game really makes you question morality in that way. And and like love and like what the pros are of love and also what the cons are of love. Like they bring out the best in people, they also bring out the worst in people. Like it can be a negative driver and a selfish motivation at the same time as like all the beauty that there is in love. And I think that like it's just such an amazing story that is told through like the perfect medium. And you get to start so many generators.
It's so many generators. That's right.
Yeah.
And you get to pick up so much like gauze.
You get to like crouch and just
the crouch that like whoop for like the vacuums to you.
Oh man, what a game.
It's such a good game.
I think we have a new entrant into the Hall of Fame.
Oh my god, I think we do.
Amazing.
After all of this, we've finally done it. I didn't think coming into this The Last of Us would be the winner. Did you?
I didn't think so either. If I'm being completely honest, I thought Persona was going to take it. Because I know you've been playing it and I knew you were hype on it.
Yeah.
I was hoping that you would lead yourself to that conclusion and I wouldn't have to do too much work. But
there's always another year. Coming in second is very good.
Totally.
That's a huge honor as well.
It is. And it's a huge honor to be on this list at all, which is why I think it's time for us to recap the definitive list here. Kate, if you can do so.
Absolutely.
Well, I prefer our special activity.
So, for the top 25 games list as of May 14th, this is the day that we're recording, 2023, our combined list, which actually I think went pretty smoothly.
It did. This is probably the easiest we've done it, actually, I would say.
Which is crazy because we started off with like 6 similar games. We have, in no small feat, in number 25, Red Dead Redemption. Number 24, Beat Saber. Number 23, Digimon Cyber Sleuth. 22, Detroit Become Human. 21, The Banner Saga. Number 20, Danganronpa. 2 if you need a specific game, but really all of them. Number 19, Ghost of Tsushima. Number 18, Elden Ring. Number 17, Shovel Knight Treasure Trove. Number 16, showing up big again, Papers, Please. The little game that
Papers,
could.
Please. Always gotta make it.
Number 15, Sekiro. Thank you, James. I will never forget what you've done for me today.
Right. I will replay that part of this podcast to you next year when we put Persona 5 Royal as the winner.
Why do we record these? Number 4, Resident Evil 4 Remake. Number 13, Hades. Number 12, Unpacking. Number 11, Death's Door. And the top...
No, that's not the one.
The top 10. Oh my god, do not. Number 10, Florence. Number 9, Returnal. Number 8, God of War Ragnarok. Number 7, Hollow Knight. Number 6, Cuphead. And then finally the top 5, The Walking Dead, Dark Souls, Inscription, Persona 5 The Royal, and congratulations to The Last of Us.
Congratulations, The Last of Us. And now, as you can see, everybody, we have a new Hall of Fame entrant. We have from 2021, God of War 2018, 2022, Bloodborne, and congratulations to The Last of Us for being our 2023 entrant for the Hall of Fame, our top 25 combined games list. That was a blast. How much fun.
Blast. You know, looking at this, like, damn, there's some good PlayStation games. Looking at our Hall of Fame.
You know, our Hall of Fame certainly needs a bit more diversity in terms of, like, you know, well, it doesn't need anything. We know what we like.
Yeah, that's right. Fine. We get a Game Pass game for Unpacking next year.
Unpacking will make it one day.
Unpacking 2.
Oh my God. All right, everybody. Well, this has been a very long episode, so thank you very much for those of you that stuck around to the end and got to see who got the crown, the champion's crown here today. So As always, everybody, we'll be back next week with another episode. Like I said at the start, please send in your list of your top games because we would love to see if any of our games make your list or what's on yours, because it's always fun. Lists are just fun, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just fun.
Who doesn't love a nice organized list? You just feel like you've done something productive with your day.
Exactly. So send those in, play the games we recommended here today, and remember, this has been Cloud Control, the gaming podcast. It's not just good, it's good enough. And we'll see you on the next episode.